Will you just put that little thing away? That has got to be the smallest dick I have ever seen in my whole life. Get the fuck out of here. Teeny weeny, teeny weeny, shriveled little short dick man. Don't want. Teeny weeny, teeny weeny, shriveled little short dick man. Don't want. Don't want no short dick man. 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 Teeny weeny, shriveled little short dick man. Don't want. Teeny weeny, shriveled little short dick man. Don't want. Teeny weeny, shriveled little short dick man. Don't want. Teeny weeny, shriveled little short dick man. Don't want. Isn't that cute? An extra belly button. You need to put your pants back on, honey. Don't want no short dick man. Teeny weeny, shriveled little short dick man. Do you need some fucking tweezers to put that little thing away? That has got to be the smallest dick I have ever seen in my whole life. Get the fuck out of here. Don't want no short dick man. 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 Don't want no short dick man.
Hey everybody, I've got my mouth full of Parmesan French fries. Sorry about that. The song ended a little quicker than I expected it to. While I'm waiting on our guests here, I'm just going to talk a little bit. I want to have fun tonight since there's been so much stress and so many crazy things happen today. And I'm going to be doing a live in the next couple days to talk about the crazy stuff that happened today. But tonight I thought we'd leave the drama behind and do something interesting and fun. When we did our paranormal stream a while back, I had a lot of fun with it. I spent most of the time talking. I think it's the longest I've ever actually just spent a stream just talking to myself without any panels on or anything. But I talked a little bit about my hometown and where I came from and some of the paranormal stuff that I'd experienced. For those who weren't there for it, the town that I come from is actually somewhat famous for the paranormal activity. We had a cryptid called the Mothman, And there was actually a movie made about it and everything. Richard Gere was in it with Deborah Messing. The movie was crap. It was bullshit. But the basics of it, that there was a Mothman and that there were some otherworldly type creatures that appeared. And I mean, it had Men in Black and a tragedy at the end and all of that stuff. So, and I've also had some crazy stuff happen in my past with Ouija boards and visitors and stuff. So I thought what we're going to do is maybe every week, or not every week, every month, have a paranormal night. And we'll do subscribers' paranormal stories. And our first one is my girl Copper Dick, we'll call her tonight. And she is... this is her first time on a panel ever, I do believe. And I'm really excited that she decided to come up here tonight and share her story. And I think she's on stream now. How you doing, girl?
Nervous. Very, very nervous.
Don't be nervous. I'm here, so if you get stuck, I'll back you up. And it gets addictive. Like once you're on a panel and you enjoy it, you'll want to do it a lot more. Trust me.
Oh God, I don't think that.
I'll bet you will.
I am not much for the spotlight.
Well, we'll see. It gets fun. It does, because after a while, you'll forget that all those other people are there in chat, watching and hanging on your every word.
Yeah, probably not.
So you said you had a pretty crazy paranormal story to tell, and I purposely didn't ask you any of the details so I could be surprised with everybody.
Oh yeah. It's a good one too.
Okay.
It happened. Oh gosh, it happened when I was just a few months after I turned 18. I was my sister was pregnant, and I was going over and staying the weekends with her because I was still in school. I hadn't graduated yet. I was almost there to graduation, but not yet. But yeah, I went to stay the night with her and help her out, get stuff set up because they had just moved into this place, and it was a 3-bedroom trailer. So there was like 2 bedrooms at one end and 1 bedroom off to the other end.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to stay in the little one closest to her. So, in case if she needed me, I'd be there.
Right.
And yeah, we got there that day. We were just chilling, and she was telling me about, she's, been hearing noises and stuff in like her kitchen. And of course, I'm joking around going, oh, it's just your imagination. You're pregnant. It's a new house. You're just not used to it settling.
Right.
Well, nothing happened while I was, during the daytime. But at night, like, I went to sleep in that little room, and it wasn't easy to fall asleep. It had like a weird feeling to it. But I finally got to sleep, and I woke up a little bit when my brother-in-law went to work that morning, probably about 6 o'clock. And I dozed back off because, teenager, I'm not getting up that early.
Right.
So I got back to sleep for a couple of hours, and I woke up like I started awake. And I just laid there for a second, like, looking around like, what just woke me up? And I tried to get up, and I couldn't. Like, it felt like something was holding my shoulders down. And I was like, trying to get up, but then I moved my legs and like was trying to swing them off the bed. And then it just like let go, and I could sit up. Oh gosh, I ran out of the room. Ran out of that room. And I went to my sister's room and just kind of stood there and was debating on whether or not to wake her up. And I was like, no, I don't want to wake her up. She needs all the sleep she can get. So I went and like staring at that door because my cigarettes were still in that room. And I'm like, I really want those. So I like darted back in there real quick and grabbed them and then ran back out. And I didn't want to sit in the house at all. So I went and sat on the front porch. And I was just, reading a little book that I had. And I was probably sitting out there maybe an hour when some lawn care guys showed up to like cut the grass. And they were there probably about an hour, maybe a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But right as I was reading my book, and like as soon as he crunk up the weed eater, it scared the crap out of me. And like I just kind of like sat up and laughed at myself and lit me a cigarette. And while I was just looking out the yard, because it wasn't like in a trailer park, it was off by itself with a house over beside it. So I could see like straight out to the road. And I was, just looking. And all of a sudden I see like a guy like dressed in gray sweats, dark hair, run from one bush to the other bush that was in the yard. And, it's like those big old bushes like that are wild looking, but when you cut them down, they're not bad looking.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly.
And you can pretty much see through like most of it, except for the bottom where it's dense. And like when he got to the second bush, it's like, where did he go? Like never came back out. I thought he was one of the lawn guys, but he wasn't. Because when my sister woke up and I told her everything that happened, and she was like, no, there's only two grass guys, two lawn guys, an old guy and a young guy. And I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. Who the hell was that other person?
Oh my God, that's so freaky.
Yeah. And like, I did not want to go back in that room, but she went with me to like go get my stuff out of the room. And when we went to go in the room, there was like 2 pairs of shoes lined up, heel toe, right there at the doorway. And I was like, okay, it doesn't want me to go in there.
That is crazy.
Oh, yeah, it was so crazy. Oh, but it's not over yet. It's not over yet. I wanted to go home, but, her husband worked until like 11 o'clock that night. And he was like, yeah, I'm tired. I don't want to take you home. Let's try to figure this out. So to appease me, he brought their mattress into the living room, and he went and got that mattress out of there and out of the little room so I could sleep in the living room too. And we all just kind of like camped out in the living room. He didn't have to work the next day. So, we stayed up talking and laughing for a bit, and then we went to bed. And not even a few hours later, I wake up, and I don't know why I woke up. And then all of a sudden, a body pillow. I slept with a body pillow all the time. But I felt my body pillow like sliding down towards my feet. And the foot of like the way the mattress was on that I was on, it was like pointed back towards the hallway. And I looked up, and my brother-in-law and my sister, they're both there in the bed or on the mattress. And like, I look down at my feet towards the hallway, and all I see is like blackness. Like you can't see down the hallway, and you usually can because there's a back door down there and it has a window on it, and there's a street light back there that, shines through. So I should have saw that hallway. So I just kind of like grabbed my body pillow and jerked it back up real quick, wrapped my arms and legs around it, like curled up into the smallest ball I possibly could, and was basically sleeping on my brother-in-law's feet or laying on his feet. Right. And I just prayed until I fell asleep.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, I woke up the next morning. I was like, I want to go home. I want to go home right now. I don't care. I want to go home.
Oh my God, I would have died. And the funny thing is when I had my last paranormal stream, somebody came up and was talking about an experience that they had that was really similar, like with something pushing down on them and holding them down.
Yeah.
And she said that I can't remember who it was that told her this, but that she had been visited by the old hag, and that it was like, I'm wanting to say that it was like protecting them against something, like that was like the legend that went with it. Said that they were like trying to either warn them of danger, or that they were protecting them, like maybe trying to get them to stay still because there was another evil spirit there. But that somehow that they were to protect you from evil spirits, and when they were on you, you couldn't move like that. And
Yeah, like it was warning me to like not be in that room, because when I went back and stayed again, but I did not stay in that room. I would not go in that room. I would not even look at that room. I stayed in the back bedroom, and I never had anything like that happen again. I mean, I always felt like something was watching me sometimes, but no, nothing ever touched me again, thank God.
That's crazy.
But I did have, when I was sitting there on the couch one morning, and it was probably like 3 or 4 months after this incident, because it took me a whole month before I'd stay the night with her again. Yeah, she couldn't talk me in it to save her life.
Oh wow, I wouldn't have either.
Yeah.
So did you ever even go in there again after that, or you just?
No, I never went back in that room again. Even when they moved out, I would not go in that room and get anything.
Can't say I blame you. And
but
Amanda wants to know if the room was colder than the rest of the house.
Not really. Like they kept it pretty cold anyways. So I was in a tank top and I wasn't too cold.
I hear
but
you.
When that happened, I was like completely under blankets. So
well, a lot of times, like the presence of like a spirit will cause either a temperature rise or a temperature drop in the room. Usually they're associated with temperature drops, but sometimes it'll get warmer too. I've heard of that happening. But yeah, if you were under blankets, you might not have noticed. I had the funny thing is, like the kind of experience you're talking about happened a lot in my town when that Mothman stuff was happening. And it was crazy. I had it happen to me once, but it was the scariest thing ever. And I didn't feel anything touching me. I was just so freaking scared I couldn't move. And there was a huge black shape at the foot of my bed. Absolutely thought I was going to die.
Yeah, like I never felt like any hands on my shoulders. It was just like something was just like, there, and I just didn't feel it.
Did you have goosebumps or hair standing on your arms? Andrew Clark is asking.
I had goosebumps when I was outside. Like when that happened, I got like a cold chill.
Amanda wants to know how long you were held down for.
Maybe 3 or 4 seconds. Maybe like 5-ish seconds. I mean, it wasn't long at all because, yeah, I started moving my legs pretty quick. Because, like, you can't move the top. Next logical thing is, well, try to move the bottom.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I would have done myself. With mine, I just like shut my eyes real fast and like screwed them tight as hard as I could. And when I opened my eyes, whatever it was at the foot of my bed was gone. But
oh gosh, no, I couldn't close my eyes. I was too freaked out. Like my eyes were bigger than dinner plates. It's like I was instantly awake.
Amanda said, fuck that, that's too long. I agree with her.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, even a second is too freaking long.
But no, like 3 or 4 months after that had happened, I was just sitting there in the living room one morning watching TV. Because my sister, she liked to sleep. She was pregnant with twins, so totally understandable. I like to sleep, and I don't have to be pregnant for that.
Oh, hell no. Sleeping's awesome.
Oh, yeah. But I was just sitting there watching TV, and I guess he didn't like what I was watching, because I was watching some, like, cartoons or something. I'm always watching cartoons. And, like, my sister has a wooden spice rack, and you got to like nail this sucker on the wall. And it came flying off the wall. And like, because it like the stove was in like a little alcove almost, with like a wall that came out on one side.
Mm-hmm.
So she was able to put the spice rack on that. And then right beside the stove was like a bit of the counter, and then there was the sink. So the spice rack flew off, totally missed the stove, and landed over on the counter.
So it didn't just drop off the wall, it flew across the room, basically.
Yeah, it flew off the wall.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
When that happened, like, did you notice anything else at the time? Like, did anything, like a temperature change or anything else? Like,
No, I wasn't thinking about anything like that. I was just thinking, Melissa, get your butt up and get out.
I feel you. I want some.
Yes, that is my name. I just doxed myself. Oh my God.
Uh-oh. See, I was gonna try and ignore that, but I am. Some show just did an episode on the Mothman, really? Oh, I know the guy that owns that museum, Cass. He's a cool dude. He plays guitar, and he also wrote a book on the Mothman as well. But I know his family. Anyway,
yeah, I love the stories on the Mothman.
Yeah.
I have seen like a ton of episodes of the one about the bridge you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
How he was spotted on the bridge, and then like not long after that, the bridge just collapses.
Yeah. There was bumper to bumper traffic on that bridge when it collapsed, and 46 people died in that tragedy. The bridge collapsing was attributed to a faulty bolt that was, because it was like a suspension type bridge. And they're saying that a bolt broke and then the whole bridge just went down. But some people say they saw the Mothman flying around that area. But there were also men in black that appeared around that time as well.
Yeah.
And because they were so strange, people suspected that they might be time travelers or interdimensional travelers, but they supposedly didn't look like regular people, and they dressed like, and their vehicles as well were from like.
Well, they have to look alike. I mean,
yeah.
That way you can't be like, well, I saw this one dude and he looked like this.
Right. Well, they said that they had like kind of olive tone skin, and they all had like almond shaped eyes, and they dressed from like the 40s, and this was in the mid 60s, and drove cars from like the 40s, but their clothes and shoes all looked brand new. Like the soles of their shoes weren't scuffed and stuff.
Yeah,
and
like shiny and yeah.
Yeah, and they brought recorders, and they asked people, like when they questioned them, they asked to record them, and then they put down the recorder and not know that they were supposed to plug it in, for instance. And some people claim that they saw the men in black around the base of the bridge before it happened as well.
Yeah, that one's, there's a lot of stuff,
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting
understand
stuff.
Fully about.
Yeah, exactly. But you said you had, somebody was asking.
Ghoul's my sister that played with the Ouija board. I was never stupid enough.
There you go. That's what I was going to ask you about, was the Ouija board thing. Well, Claire, I'm not going to
Devil Mike, my feet don't have names.
As I say, I'm not going to talk too much about the Mothman tonight, but when I get Katrina on here, I'll probably go over that story a bit again, because I'm really interested to hear what her take on all of it is. So, yeah, so we'll probably visit that again. Now, you said that wasn't the only paranormal experience, the only paranormal experiences, I should say, that you've had. So you told about the spice rack and the.
Oh, I have one that my uncle passed away when I was younger, and like he was good with his hands. He built stuff all the time. Well, he was building a house because he had 11 kids. Yes, I know. Wow. One set of twins. And he was building a house for all of them to live in, but he only got halfway done with it. So it's basically, you know, fully house. It just needed like the rest of the windows, and the downstairs needed to be completed.
Mm-hmm.
And he had it where the upstairs, there was probably about 4 bedrooms that were completely finished, that, you know, you can stay in and everything, had power, all that. And well, after he passed away, you know, my cousins tried to maintain it. And well, we like to hang out down there. So me and my cousin Susan, well, it doesn't matter. Y'all don't know her. Well, she was hanging out with her boyfriend, and well, she wanted to have some alone time with him. And well, we go hang out at the big house. I'm with my other cousin. He was skateboarding. And well, we were like down in the bottom part of the house. We called it the big house. But we were down at the bottom part, and her and her boyfriend were up at the upstairs. So we're just down there chilling. You know, I'm smoking a cigarette, of course. And like all of a sudden, like we hear footsteps. And my uncle walked a very, very distinct way because of, he broke his back when he fell off a ladder, and he wore leg braces. So he had a very distinct walk. And well, that's who we heard walking down from his room, like down to the room that my cousin was in with her boyfriend.
Gotcha.
And yeah, I just hollered up, "You're on your own!" And I was gone. So yeah,
absolutely. Oh wow.
and that was during the daytime, not at nighttime. A lot of experiences I've had have been in the daytime.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have to be at night. I had, and this is weird. Well, I think it was creepy anyway because we were actually telling ghost stories at the time. This happened in the daytime too. I was babysitting for my little brother and his buddy with one of my friends, and we were telling ghost stories. We were trying to get him to just like calm down and be still for a little bit and maybe take a nap. So we were telling ghost stories, and you know, we had him going pretty good. This was back before CDs, when everybody had cassette tapes.
Oh yeah.
So we were listening. I forget who the band was, probably Bon Jovi, because I was mad about Bon Jovi at the time. But we stopped it, like we played a song. I forget what the song was, but we stopped it, turned the tape player off. And, you know, that was a button you had to push down. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
you know, like the things we use now. It was like a button.
You had to use some actual force for it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the crazy thing was, we turned it off at the end of, let's say it was Living on a Prayer. I don't remember what the song was, but for the sake of the story, let's say it was Living on a Prayer. And we were telling ghost stories, and in the middle of those ghost stories, that thing turned itself back on, started at the beginning of Living on a Prayer, and at full freaking volume.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely no explanation. Like, I cannot think of any kind of explanation for it, except for maybe the ghosts don't like Bon Jovi. Or maybe they do like Bon Jovi, actually. They have good taste in music. But that was like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock. Like, it was about the time little kids take naps, like kindergarten age or younger, would like be made to lay down for a little bit, you know?
Oh yeah.
So it definitely wasn't nighttime. And
no,
that
I can. The Ouija board stuff, I can definitely attest to that being evil. Like, my mom found the Ouija board that my sister had, and we had a wood stove, and she threw it into the wood stove and set it on fire, or burned it basically. And it
Don't tell me it showed back up.
no. It put off green flames. Like, I'm not shitting you. It put off green flames. And it was the freaking the Warren Parker Brothers whatever version.
Right.
Like the little plastic planchet and, you know, the little cheap ass board.
Right. Well, my
And
friend, I don't.
after she burned it, she ended up, both of her lungs collapsed. And she ended up finding out that she had COPD. And that basically took her.
Oh my gosh.
When I was 17.
Wow. I've actually heard that burning
are
them
the
sets
thing
loose
to mess
whatever
around
spirits-
with.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. What'd you say?
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that I've heard before that burning them sets loose whatever spirit may be attached to them, because there's usually, like, even if you talk to different spirits, there's usually like a spirit you have to go through that's like attached to the board. And I read somewhere that burning them can cause that spirit to be let loose.
Oh, I have no doubt it. Like it released some kind of evil.
She burned a Ouija board, Ghoul. Have you ever made a homemade one? Played with a homemade one?
Oh God, no! I don't mess with them.
A friend of mine and I, we were just screwing around, and I have this weird thing with Ouija boards. Like, I honestly have a weird effect on them. They tend to not work when I'm in the room, and usually they'll like call me a bitch and say it hates me. Like, and this has happened like with people that didn't, like, different groups of people that wouldn't have already known it, you know. So I know it wasn't somebody just fucking with me. And anyway, they usually hate my guts. And multiple times I've been sitting with my hand on the Ouija board and it's calling me a bitch and saying it hates me and stuff. And then all of a sudden I look up and everybody's looking at me like I'm nuts. And when I ask them what's wrong, they'll be like, dude, you just like went out for like 15, 20 minutes or whatever, and stopped in the middle of a sentence and just went out. And then you just woke up and started talking again. Like I picked up where I left off in the sentence and started talking again. But while I was out, the Ouija board like went crazy and said all kinds of shit. And I had no clue that any of that shit happened.
Best thing you can do is, like, you've got a Ouija board, you want to get rid of it, give it away. Somebody's always willing to take it, but best thing you do is just give it away.
I've heard stories about
somebody who is willing to take it.
Yeah. Well, I made, and don't ever make one, because
oh God, I never will.
We made one, and that sucker didn't do what they usually do around me. That thing actually did work. We cut out little pieces of paper with the letters of the alphabet on it and put it on in a picture frame, and then we took like a shot glass and used it as a pointer.
Yeah.
And that thing told us it was a friend of ours. It was actually a boy that my friend had a crush on. It told us it was him, and said all kinds of crazy stuff, like stuff about the devil and stuff. And I don't know. It was upsetting. It was really upsetting. And then we went to school the next day, and there was a bunch of kids standing around my locker. And when I got there, they told me that kid had died that night. Ooh. And that is, I'm getting goosebumps now just talking about it. My whole body.
We had a girl at my school. She was in a couple of hang on, I can talk. She was in a couple of grades below me, and she was always into like that, you know, the darker stuff. I mean, I like some dark stuff, but she liked the darker stuff. And she was always messing around with the Ouija board. And I even told her, if she's going to mess around with one, at least make a circle of salt. At least make a circle of salt.
Yes.
And, well, she never listened. And they ended up finding her.
Everybody probably knows what a circle of salt does. You might want to tell them.
A circle of salt is protection against bad spirits or bad energy, bad juju.
Yeah.
You put the circle, like you do almost a complete circle, leave enough open to where you can step through, and then you close it while you're inside the circle. And you don't step outside that circle until you're completely done with everything. As long as you're in the circle will protect you.
So is it just spirits, or is it supposed to protect you from physical harm too?
It's supposed to protect you from all of that. Like it protects you from that being able to mess with you at all.
Gotcha.
Like it keeps them outside the circle.
So if somebody has like a ghost that's like crawling in bed with them and yanking their covers off in the middle of the night, they could do a circle of salt around their bed, and it would keep that spirit from messing with them while they sleep.
Yeah. They if they wanted to like get it to stop, they got to get the house blessed. Any priest can do it, or a medium, even a gypsy.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be careful with gypsies though.
Hey,
Don't
Dick, are
screw
you able
up
to
for
see Copper
gypsy.
Dick? Are you able to see chat?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Cass was asking if you were able to see chat, so.
Oh, yep, there she is.
Yeah.
Hi, Lord Beerus.
Now, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you were telling your friend to make a circle of salt. You were talking about her Ouija board.
Yeah, they ended up finding her dead in her room.
Oh my God.
And like it looked like she had been in a fight, like she was fighting with herself. They basically deemed that she overdosed. And like they said that when she overdosed, like she kind of, I don't know how she would trash the room if she was,
like maybe she had a seizure or something.
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, it was like her whole room. So.
Oh, wow.
So Ouija boards, not something to mess with, even homemade ones.
Oh, homemade ones
Especially
are
not
more
without
dangerous.
some kind of protection. See,
Yeah.
kid, protection is good. Yes, that's a double innuendo.
And homemade Ouija boards are more dangerous than store-bought ones. I guarantee you that. Because
yeah, definitely. Because you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, well, when you make them, like you're also putting like the energy of whoever makes it goes into it. So if the person is like has not so pure intentions, or they're weak, spiritually weak, like that comes through in what you end up contacting with that. And I think that's why why that happened with us, because the girl who made the Ouija board with me had a crush on the boy. And I kind of think that's why he ended up coming through, on that one, because she liked him a lot. And so, and that is freaky. And I swear, like, I know I sound like a nutter because I have all these crazy paranormal-ish stories, but I swear the town that I lived in, because of the paranormal activity, attracted that kind of thing. Because
I believe like towns that have like mines and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's the quartz. Usually where they're mining for anything, there's a crap load of quartz, and quartz has a tendency of kind of capturing moments in time. You know what I mean? So it's like those moments in time replay, and it's usually the more horrific ones that are, the emotions are so powerful that it just imprints on the whole area.
Well, the place that I'm from, there was actually a battle in the Revolutionary War between the settlers and Indians was fought there as well. It's called the Battle of Point Pleasant. And a great Indian chief was murdered there. He was tricked into coming to the fort under like a peace kind of deal. And they assassinated him.
Yeah, I read about that.
Okay. Well, he supposedly cursed the town. Chief Cornstalk, he supposedly cursed our town when he died as well. And on top of all of that, they moved his burial site, at
Oh yeah,
least
y'all were
twice that I know
screwed.
of. Yeah. So on top of that, and the town being on a place of power where the two rivers meet, and then, you know, I mean, I like the two rivers meeting, I guess, has a lot of spiritual energy anyway. And that's an attraction to, I guess, like things like the Mothman and stuff. So there's a lot of crazy stuff that's just, and then the area where the Mothman is sighted, or was sighted so often, was a place where they used to store ammunition during World War II. So there's all this crazy stuff, you know, connected with it. And it makes sense that it would magnify like latent psychic abilities, or at least I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I forgot why I went off on that. Anyway, like all the crazy Ouija board things I was telling you about, like happened there. Um, did you ever experience anything weird happening when you used one? Or have you never used one before?
Oh, I've never used one. I've been around people that used them, but I've never used them. Like I've been around when people are using them too, but I usually, you know, get the heck out of Dodge.
I feel you. Have you ever had anything weird happening while you were in the room? Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's been like we've heard like tapping. It's I don't really stick around that long though. I usually, you know, oh y'all are doing that. All right, later.
right. Yeah, that's I never did, and I wish that I had now because some of the things that I saw, you know, when they were being used just freaked me out, and I was never able to like really
Oh, and stuff can
put it
attach
on
to
my
you
mind.
and
Yeah,
follow you around.
yeah. I
Like
think
I know that. Oh, yeah, I know that. That
yeah. I don't know if you're able to see the screen or not, Principal Dick, but that the picture I just shared there on StreamYards, um, is one of the places where the Mothman used to appear. We used to party there when I was in high school. That's where we used to go and drink. And
oh,
that's what
that's
it looked like at the time.
I would not go there at night though.
We always went at night, but we always had fires. And we called it Stonehenge, and for obvious reasons. And I mean, just imagine like I grew up partying in places like that.
Okay, I would go if I wasn't alone. But
Right. Yeah.
you wouldn't be catching me and just like 2 or 3 other people going out there.
Right. Yeah, it was always huge groups of people, but the whole place is a wildlife conservation area, technically, but they still store stuff there, and there are remains of all these buildings and bunkers and stuff like that. There is the remains of some kind of building, and it's all like stuck, like you can go back in the woods and find like the remains of a building, just like back with all these trees growing out of it and stuff, like back behind a fishing pond or something. It's really crazy. Um, Andrew says he would party there. We had a lot of good times there, but it is creepy, Amanda. You're right. It's not actually a military base, Cass. It's a place where they used to store ammo, and they actually, even though they deny that it does, that they do still use it. We've had enough things, like there was an explosion that was unexplained out there a few years ago, so we all suspect that they actually still use it. But
If y'all
anyway.
hear me sniffling a lot, I have allergies, horrific allergies in the springtime. So
Sure you did.
I'm not over here snorting a line, I swear.
Well, why not? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So let's see. We did the Ouija board thing. I know you said you had a bunch of them. I was trying to remember some of the prompts, and I can't. Did you ever?
Get everybody sniffling.
I know you said you saw the guy.
I have one that where I lived, where I grew up, there was a really old bridge that was used in the movie Nail.
Oh,
you remember those bridge scenes?
Yeah.
Old iron bridge that was filmed like right on my road, basically.
Oh, wow.
So, like, you know, we have that creepy old ass bridge, but right below that bridge is an old mill. And just a little bit downstream from the mill, like, you know, before the mill was there, there used to be like a homestead, or, you know, a cabin. I wouldn't really say a homestead, but there was a lady who lived there, you know, back in the day. But she ended up like killing her kids in the creek, like bashed them on rocks. Yeah. And they were young, like one of them was a baby and the other one wasn't older than a toddler. And you can hear those babies crying up there at certain times. And I always thought everybody was bullshitting me. Well, nope, they weren't. I was walking with my brother and a couple of my cousins, because we had, you know, walked up to the old bridge and, you know, we're just kind of like throwing rocks off of it.
Right.
And, you know, walking back home, we were, you know, walking by the creek and we hear a baby crying, and oh my gosh, we all took off running so hard, and none of us stopped running until we got to my house.
Oh my gosh.
It was so creepy. And my mom was like, it was probably just, you know, a mountain lion, or, you know, something
Or a
like
bird.
an animal. And I'm like, no, this was not an animal.
No. Oh my God. That made my hair stand up. It reminds me of the story of the Blair Witch, you know, in the Blair Witch Project. Like, oh my gosh, it's so, ugh.
Oh, that's not the only one though. We had another one down where we lived, where this guy was walking home from a bar, basically, you know, back, you know, when everybody rode horses.
Yeah.
And he was, you know, going home drunk, and he had won money, a buttload of money at a, you know, poker game. Well, the other guy thought he had cheated him, and he followed him. Him and his buddies followed that guy out, and they basically hung him up on his horse. You know, they beat him, robbed him, hung him up on his horse, and strung the, you know, a rope around the tree, and, you know, smacked the horse's butt, and there he is dangling.
Oh my God,
But
yeah.
he had, like, something happened, like, basically it decapitated him. And like like the legend was, is he walks around with a lantern looking for his head. And like this was just like a summer night, and I was just sitting out on my porch, and I look off in my neighbor's cow pasture, and I see like an old lantern, like swinging, like somebody's holding it and walking. You don't see, like, and it was, you know, the moon was out. So if somebody was holding the lantern, I would have seen the dark shape of them.
Right. And there's shadows and shit.
Yeah. I didn't see no person. All I saw was the lantern floating basically through the air.
Oh my
And
God.
you could see it was an old lantern because it was flickering like fire, not like,
Right.
you know, a bulb.
Yeah, there's a definite difference between the flame that comes from a kerosene lantern and one that comes from a light bulb type one. Definitely.
Oh, Bender, I have quite a few stories. I sometimes wonder if I don't attract this stuff.
You know, I think that some people are just a little more open to things, and they tend to have more experiences because they're not in denial. You know, like they say that little kids are more likely to see things because their minds are more open. And I think it's that way, you know, with some adults as well. Like,
I'll message you later, Cass. That way you can steer clear.
well, since my state was already doxxed by the douchebags, you know, I live in West Virginia, and you can look up the Mothman and see what town that is where I grew up in. But, well, shit, I'll just say it. I don't care. I don't live there anymore, and I haven't in 20 years. So the town I'm from is Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So, And they say you can still see the Mothman there if you go and look, but I don't know. I haven't been there in a while. So.
Oh, I watch, the weird ghost stuff. So they like, there's still sightings of him. Not as frequent, but they say that he only appears when a disaster is going to happen.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. That a lot of people believe. But our Mothman appeared like quite some time before it happened. Like I'm wanting to say a couple years, but I could be wrong on that. I'd have to look it up to be sure. But the funny thing is a lot of like when we go to or when I started a job, I used to work for Singular Wireless in a call center there. And a lot of the call centers, when they have training classes and stuff, they like to do icebreakers where they make people like introduce themselves and they make games out of it and shit. And I stood up, and we had to tell like 3 things about ourselves or something. And so I stood up and I said, my name is blah, 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 and I'm from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, home of the Mothman. And this guy came up to me after it was over with and asked me about it. And he's like, what did you mean by home of the Mothman? And I told him a little bit about the Mothman. And he's like, that is fucked up. He said he was from Kentucky, but like a couple of months or whenever the hunting season was before, he'd been hunting out in the woods. And he looked up in a tree and saw a man who looked like he was about 7 feet tall or so, standing like on the top branches of the tree, and that he had these big giant wings folded behind his back. And he said he reached to get his, I don't know if he said camera or binoculars, but he went to get something to like record it or something. And while he was reaching for whatever it was, it like took off into the air and like shot straight up in the air and ran off.
Yeah, that would freak me out.
Yeah.
See, if I saw something like that, I don't think I'd ever leave my house again.
Luckily, I never saw it because I'd probably die if I saw it as well. I totally believe
I can deal with ghosts, for the most part. I can deal with them. But yeah, I don't think I could deal with seeing an actual physical legend in the person.
The weird thing about him is a lot of the people who had sightings also experienced signs of low-level radiation exposure afterwards.
Sorry, I'm reading chat.
Oh, that's okay.
They're comedians tonight.
She is a knockout in real life. What you talking about, Bender? Andrew's talking about cats seeing spirits. I fully believe that.
Oh, yeah. Dogs, too, and even birds.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely birds. I've heard about sparrows, starlings, and, of course, crows. That they
Cardinals and bluebirds. Yes. If you see, like, cardinals and bluebirds, it's usually, a family member coming to visit you.
You want to know
butterflies?
Butterflies, yes, definitely. I read a story in a magazine. I used to have it up on my fridge because butterflies have special meaning to my mom and I anyway. And there was a story about this woman whose sister had died when she was pregnant with her little girl. And she'd always regretted that her sister hadn't lived long enough to see her daughter born.
Yeah.
And she said her daughter was like 4 years old or so, and she never talked to her really about it because she didn't want to have to deal with questions about death at such a young age. But this butterfly came out of nowhere and landed on her daughter's shoulder. And her daughter was like giggling and talking to it and stuff. And when it flew off, the daughter turned to her mom and said, Auntie Rachel just said to tell you, that I'm beautiful and that she loves
wow.
You. Yeah. And
that's awesome.
It's making my hair stand up now. But
see, when my oldest was a baby, she was probably about 2. We're getting ready to turn 2. Not much of a baby, more of almost a toddler. But when she was about 2, well, actually, since like birth, she was always like looking off, But when she was about 2, she would just be like in her room, like laughing and giggling and, talking to somebody. And I swear it was my mom. Like, I swear, like, my mom was like chilling with her.
Oh yeah, very well could be. They say
'Cause,
that babies, for the same reason, it's those that open mind, like they don't have the experience to be cynical about it, so they just accept it. And that a lot of times, and that's why supposedly a lot of times, like loved ones can communicate with you when you're sleeping. That's another thing that I miss about living in my town. I don't know if I said this or not, but like all the experience I had kind of stopped when I moved away, and the people that I was really close to that passed used to come in my. I used to see them in my dreams all the time,
yeah,
and I never even knew that there was a legend or whatever that that your loved ones can come visit you in your dreams like that. Like I'd never heard it until The Sixth Sense when the kid tells Bruce Willis to talk to his wife while she's sleeping. So I
yeah,
never even knew about that, and it used to happen with people I barely even knew. Like we had a lot of people pass away when I was in school, like a lot of people my age, and you're talking like probably 10 kids out of my class out of in a town that has less than 5,000 people in it. I mean, that's a lot,
yeah.
and some of these were people I didn't even know really, but they would always appear in my dreams. And it'd always be like, I'm afraid to look at them or even acknowledge them because I'm afraid that they'll like disappear once I do. Like I know they're not supposed to be there, and I'm just like in awe of it. But yeah, I haven't had that happen since I moved away from my town either. That's a bummer. Um,
Oh,
Cardinals,
Cass, when it
bluebirds.
happens to me, I usually see the bluebirds or the cardinals during the wintertime. And they're usually not around here during the wintertime.
Let me tell you, in the town that I lived in before, I hardly ever saw bluebirds or cardinals. And I lived out, it was kind of in the country. Very rarely ever saw them. And now where I live is more cityfied. And the neighborhood where I live, there's like tons of them, tons of them. There's actually a tree across the street from me that I call the Tree of Life because of the number of blue jays and cardinals that sit in there.
I bet that's pretty.
Yeah.
A blue
We also
tree.
have a huge mockingbird population too.
Oh, I love mockingbirds. I know
I
everybody else
do
hates
too.
them, but I love those birds. Like, I don't know. I just love them.
I love mockingbirds. I got a funny story. When I lived back home in Point Pleasant, we used to try and fit, like it was making us crazy, is there was this tiny patch of woods back behind our house, but it was very small. And we would hear the sound of somebody cutting wood, like this chainsaw or whatever. And it would drive us crazy because we couldn't figure out where it was coming from. That little patch of woods, like if somebody was cutting down trees all day, every day, eventually you'd see that. And
Yeah.
yeah, there was no sign of anything. And then one day I'm sitting on the porch with my mom reading a book, and I look up and there's a mockingbird sitting up there on that lawn making that chainsaw noise. And this one was amazing. Like he could do the ringing of a cordless phone. He did frogs. He did ducks quacking. He did. He called the neighbor's dog. Like it was amazing. He didn't just
That would
do.
I would have like I would have been I would have got a camcorder.
Oh, we said that. Well, this was before. This was back when only rich people had video recorders. But
True.
yeah, he did. I mean, bullfrogs. Like it was amazing. The ones that live in where I live now only do other birds, and I think that's the only other time I've ever heard a mockingbird, do anything but the sound of other birds.
Yeah.
Amber said she's got a good story. She can probably come up in a little bit. That'd be awesome. Um,
There. About the birds that flew into your home. I've only heard that that was good thing. Like if a bird flew into your house, like it
I
was,
think it depends on the kind of bird because there's some kind of bird that's supposed to like indicate that somebody's gonna die.
I've always heard those were like if a blackbird or a raven, or a crow, like, fly into your house. That one's bad, but
Well, crows are supposed to escort the spirits of people who have passed, but it's like people who have passed in an unpleasant way. Because that's what the movie The Crow is about, if you've ever seen it. Have you ever seen The Crow?
oh, of course.
Okay. Well, I figured, but I just wanted to make sure. But that's the whole premise of The Crow, is that like he died in a violent way, and then the crow would escort his spirit back. But I'm wanting to say it's starlings. It's either starlings or sparrows. Supposedly, when you see one of them, it's supposed to
I think it's
escort
the
your soul.
starling,
Okay, it's supposed to escort your soul
but I
away.
might be wrong. I
Like, so
can't Google.
basically, yeah. Andrew's saying owl. An owl is also supposed to mean you're going to die or someone's going to die. Not when it
I don't
flies
know.
into
I had an
the
owl that like lived by like down like where I used to, where I grew up, and I think it was just its home. That, and we had a barn, so we had
yeah,
an
oh, yeah,
owl like that, like to hang out in the barn too.
right. I think it's a certain kind of owl, and I'm wanting to say screech owl. That's supposed to mean somebody's going to die. I think that's where the old banshee legend came from, like the screech of the banshee.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to say it's a screech owl, but I'm not. I used to know this stuff by heart. Like I used to be really into like mythology and folklore and stuff, but I've kind of forgotten a lot of it now. Um, I love
Yeah,
just seeing the birds,
I love
chilling.
like learning about other religions.
Oh,
It's
I know.
just, I mean, if you actually get down to the basics of every religion, it's all the same.
Oh yeah, I say that. That's why I call myself a patchwork spiritualist because I take like the basics and then I have like a little bit from each religion that I actually feel like is right. And
Yeah.
so I'm not any particular religion. I'm a patchwork spiritualist. But it's
If
true.
I had to say I was anything, I would say it's closer to Wiccan or,
and see,
a
that's a
tree
good
hugger.
one. That's a good one that has a lot of similarities is Wicca. Like if you compare Wicca to Christianity, like a lot of the basics are the same.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
they both have the Trinity, the Holy
yep,
Trinity.
yep.
They both have the harm none, or it
Right.
comes back on you.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like that's the basis of Wicca in a lot of ways is that everything you do comes back when you threefold, and that's also a main part of a lot of the teachings in the Bible as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's amazing how similar religions are, but people don't see it. They choose to focus on the differences.
Right, and I kind of believe in a lot of ways that, which I think we've talked about this someone on our channel before, but it doesn't matter. But I believe in a lot of ways that. Uh, it's not like you have to be a certain religion as much as it is just follow the basics. And I kind of think that most of these religions are just putting a different name to what they worship rather than, it's not like it's really a different God as much as they're just calling it a different name. And
Yeah,
I know some
basically.
people would call that blasphemy or whatever, or evil, but I think it's true.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you recognize that there's a higher power other than yourself,
Right.
and you try to be a good person.
Exactly.
Granted, we're human, and to human is to err. So,
Right.
nobody can be perfect all the time.
Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty perfect. I'm just playing.
Like Bender keeps saying, screws fall out all the time.
The world is an imperfect place. Amen.
Yep. I know I'm not perfect.
They're talking about squirrels in the chat. That's really funny because the town I live in is a college town, and the squirrels there are so spunky. Like they have absolutely no fear of people at all and no respect. People walk around with acorns in their pockets on the college campus, and squirrels will just come right up to their feet and take them out of their hands. It's crazy. We had a squirrel that lived over top of our. That's Copper, Amber. Copper's on our panel.
It's
Are you ready to come
me.
up?
It's Copper Dick.
Copper Dick. Yes. Yes. And see, she was all nervous. I told her that once she got up here, it'd be not a thing. Once you bust your cherry, it's no big deal at all
Hey, I'm still
anymore.
nervous. I'm just hiding it very well.
Well, if you get nervous, just don't look at the chat and just pretend like you're just talking to me. That's what like the first time I had my live. I don't know how many people here were here for the first one. I know you were, but remember
I
I got so
was.
nervous in the middle of it. Like I had stuff written out, and then once I ran out of the stuff I had written down, I got so
Yeah.
nervous I just froze up and couldn't talk anymore. And Will came up and helped me, and I was really grateful for that because I totally vapor locked. It's funny now.
Yeah. That was awesome of him coming up and helping you out.
Yes, yes, it was. Devil Mike says we love our Dick. Yes, everybody here loves Dick.
Thank you. Dick loves you too.
Even though he does braid Barry Manilow's wardrobe.
Hey, I'm telling you, it's John Travolta from Saturday Night Live. Like, come on.
Actually,
Or
it is a
Saturday
little
Night
more
Fever,
John
excuse me.
Travolta-ish than Barry
He's not on those.
Manilow-ish.
Huh?
I said it is actually a little more John Travolta-ish than Barry Manilow-ish with that Peter Pan collar.
Yeah.
That's always gotten me. Amanda
Well,
says
thanks,
she loves your
Amanda.
voice and accent.
I'm just a hick.
I said, be careful just pretending Chad isn't here. You might dox your toes. I know, man. I'm telling you. I think we need to get an anti-bully movement based on people's toes, and we'll just call it like hashtag don't dox my socks. I swear I'm going to put it into motion. Everybody's going to be sporting feet as their avatar before long. Just wait and see. Except for certain people who aren't cool.
I'm not cool because I don't like feet.
Oh, well, what about your own feet though? You take pictures of your own feet. You don't have to take pictures of somebody else's.
See, I'm more of a tomboy. I don't really take pictures of myself. I take pictures of everybody else.
Right.
I'm like a YouTuber I love. They said it perfectly. I don't transfer to photo very well.
Oh, bullshit. I've seen pictures of you. You're very pretty. Very pretty. Aw.
Besides, Beerus, he just keeps making me laugh in the chat, so that
okay.
helps.
It's good times to laugh. Good to laugh. I'll tell you the story. This is why butterflies are special to me and my mom. I always thought there might be something spiritual about this. She grew up in a really, really rural area, like super rural. And one time around Mother's Day, she decided to show me where she grew up. So we drove out there. It was like 3 hours away from where we lived at the time in the Golly area, which is way up in the mountains. So it's like super, super rural. And
Yeah,
we
that
went back
sounds
like
nice.
where her first house was, and of course it wasn't there anymore, and it was just all these hills and countryside. But they had these little teeny tiny, well, I mean they were teeny tiny in that they were the size of a house and not the size of a skyscraper oil drills.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were like the little ones that kind of
the
look like
little
giant
tiny
grasshoppers.
ones. Yeah.
Okay, so they had a few of those like off in the fields and stuff, and where they had I guess somehow tapped into a water line. There were all these little rivulets of water going across the road. It was a dirt road, and there was this huge, like massive flock of butterflies that had come down to drink out of the water. Hey, Nary, sugar plum. Um, and this huge thing of butterflies was like a carpet. It was these giant monarchs the size of your hand. And my mom stopped the car, because we weren't about to run over them. And we got out and we were walking, and these butterflies like rose up in a cloud around us, and they were like trailing behind us as we walked. It was so cool. It was like something out of
That would be so awesome.
Oh my God, it was amazing. It was like something out of a movie. And I always wondered, like after I read that story about butterflies carrying spirits with them, if maybe, because my mom's family had lived there growing up, if maybe somebody from my mom's side of the family wasn't just poking their head out to say hi to her or something. But it was definitely like the coolest thing. And now, like every Mother's Day, I get her something with a butterfly on it, just to kind of mark
Yeah, it's
that.
like y'all's thing.
Yeah, it's our little totem there. But
Well, I
Anyway.
actually like a butterfly. I actually have one of those little stories. My brother, my youngest brother. Well, I've got three brothers. He's the youngest of the three, but he's still older than me. Hey, that rhymed. But he had a first wife, and she passed away in a car accident. Another car, a teenager driving distracted, hit her head on, and she passed away from it. And at her funeral, there was a blue butterfly that just kept flying around all of us, like her mom, her grandma, me, my brother, because me and her we were like best friends, and
Oh,
blue was her favorite color. So, and the blue butterflies aren't really plentiful here.
right.
So, yeah, we knew like that was her coming to say, it'll be all right.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I had this story gets me a little choked up when I tell it, but this wasn't butterfly related so much, but when my boyfriend had his car wreck, he almost died. Like what was the injury he had was to the main valve in his heart, and basically they said like, and doctors don't talk about God and stuff, but the doctor actually said miracle of God.
Yeah.
That he was even alive, like some kind of weird fluke happened and an air bubble came up and like sealed it off and kept him from bleeding. But he was in a coma for like 3 weeks or so. And basically like the doctors all told us to start saying goodbye. Like pretty much that's how the doctors, were painting it. And I went through like a really bad time. Of course, I was still a teenager. I was only like 19. And I was living at home in my mama's basement, not a hobbit. I wasn't a hobbit. I was still young enough to get away with it. But anyway.
Can girls be hobbits?
I don't think so.
Would we just be like, cave dwelling witches?
There you go. But at any rate, like I went through this big spiritual crisis, like you do when something like that happens for the first time and questioning everything and blah, blah, blah. So I was like praying all the time about it and asking for signs, and everything. And I woke up, or I had this dream actually, that I was laying in bed and that my mom was sitting beside me and rubbing my back, like, like a mom does with a really little kid, how they'll sit next to them and rub their back. All right. I had a dream that my mom was sitting next to me on the bed and doing that. And there was all this light in the room, like golden white light, like blazing all through the room. And I woke up and my bed was in a corner and it was up against a wall on one side. And there was somebody actually sitting on the side of the bed that was against the wall. And, it didn't freak me out or anything.
It would have freaked me out.
It didn't freak me out at all. It didn't scare me at all. I just kind of reached for him a little bit. And when I did, they just kind of like faded out and left like this like kind of glowing like outline in the air for a few seconds after they left. And it was weird, like their face like didn't really have any features, like it was like a human.
Yeah, like it was too bright.
It was very smooth.
Well, I mean, like the light was too bright to discern any features.
No, it was like I don't know. It was like,
you said like their face was smooth, like
yeah,
like kind of like a mannequin's.
Sort of like it was like how most people have like underlying cheekbones and stuff like that, like
and like
eyes and a nose and a mouth, but they didn't have any like other features, if that makes sense. It was like almost like a two-dimensional or something. It's really hard to explain, but I think like I think that they were there to like comfort me and like let me know that I think that was my sign. I still think that. And
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And like I kind of wonder if it wasn't like some kind of guardian, because I had all kinds of things happen to me when I was young that I should have died from but never did, like really bad illnesses and like very like accidents that like car accidents that I should have died from, but came out without a scratch.
Yeah.
But you know, I was begging like the higher power for some kind of sign that there was something more to life, you know, because I was worried about what was going to happen. And I kind of think that was my answer. But after that, like, and the light hung out for a while too. Like after they were gone, like the light hung out for a little while. I mean, a few seconds, but it hung out. And I don't know. It was like after that, like I just felt at peace. Like I didn't worry about it anymore. You know, I mean, I was still like stressed and worried, but my spiritual freak out like stopped after that. So
Yeah. Like you had some assurance.
yeah, yeah.
I know when my mom passed away, probably about maybe a year and a half after she passed away, I had a dream of like we were back at my childhood home where I grew up. And we were like sitting on the roof because we did that. Well, my brother did that sometimes because he would tan out and, you know, he would tan up there on the roof.
Yeah,
He was a weirdo.
I've done that before.
And I would climb up there and just hang out with him. But like, you know, it was like me and my mom were just sitting on the roof of the house, just looking like up at the barn. And we, you know, just sat there. We didn't talk. We just looked out, you know, there. And,
Right.
you know, I just got like a feeling of peace. So I know she's at peace.
Right.
I think that was like her sign to me.
Yeah.
To let me know that, you know, she was fine.
That very well could be. And I think like our loved ones who passed do like find ways to let us know and ways that we'll recognize, you know, like subtle ways. A few years ago, I make handmade jewelry, and my sister gave me a few like pins and like little pieces of jewelry that used to belong to my dad's mom, my paternal grandma, and I have very, very few things of hers, like very
Yeah.
few things. So it was a really big deal to me. And she gave it to me as part of my Christmas gift. And the day after Christmas, I was at home sitting on the couch with my cat in my lap, and I just started smelling lilies out of nowhere. And I actually called my mom, and I was asking her like if she knew, because at the time I wasn't like really talking to my dad that much, if she knew what my grandma's favorite flower was. And she told me that it was a jonquil, which is a type of lily. And
Yeah.
I was like, I've been smelling lilies all day. And my mom asked me, you know, how I forget exactly how she worded it, but basically like what it smelled like. And I just said, it smells happy. And I just started crying. But I think that was her way of letting me know, you know, that she was glad I had that stuff. And I mean, she died when I was pretty young. Like I was in my mid-teens, like 17 or so.
Yeah.
She passed away. But
I know like whenever, like, I don't know, when my mom like comes and visits me, I smell coffee.
mm-hmm.
Like I won't even have made like I didn't drink coffee there for a couple of years
Mm-hmm.
after I had my thyroid taken out. So coffee just kind of like just made me too shaky.
Really?
Yeah, too much caffeine.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I have to drink that light coffee.
Wow.
It's fun. But yeah, like there was, you know, years where I didn't drink coffee and I'd still smell coffee and I'm like, "Hey mom." You know, like she's, you know, when I smell that, like she's popping in.
Right.
It's funny, like my mom's mom, we called her my nanan, and she dipped snuff, and it has a very distinct smell.
Yes,
Like,
it does. I had an aunt that used to dip snuff.
and like I know when I smell that snuff, that, you know, that's my nanan coming back to, you know, check on me, make sure I'm staying right.
Wow. Claire said that her grandmother dreamed of her grandfather and told her not to tell, but that she was going to fly to see him, and she passed away that next day.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And she wanted her to know that she and and her would both be okay. Oh,
Aww. That's so sweet.
that is sweet. Um, it's interesting. My mom is like super duper religious, like really religious. You know, like a lot of times religious people are really resistant to the idea of, which is funny since like in the Bible is full of like ghosts and people having visions and ESP and stuff. But for some
Exactly.
reason, religious people are really opposed to that idea. And my mom, I've told her about, you know, my visitor, and she has never ever tried to talk me into believing that I just had a dream or something. And I've also told her about like the dreams about family coming back and stuff, and she's never tried to convince me that I was out of my mind there either, which I think really says something. She actually told me that when she was young, she'd had this dream, and she said she really couldn't remember it, but she woke up screaming and crying about one of her uncles and that he was killed in a mining accident that night. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah, it really, I mean, even people who were brought up to believe that that stuff doesn't exist, you know, and
Yeah. Like
she was
my mom was really religious, but you know, she believed in that. But she was, you know, my nanan was basically, to put it bluntly, she was basically a witch. You know what,
oh
you know,
yeah,
people would call at that time. She was a witch. But, you know, even my nanan was, you know, she went to church every single Sunday. Like the
right,
only thing that could keep her from going to church was, you know, like the flu or something, or, you know, being half dead.
right,
So, like, you know, back then, you know, stuff went together more than it does today.
yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Like, you know, they were basically, you know, still religious. I mean, even voodoo takes Catholicism, or Catholic is whatever you
Hmm.
call it. They, you know, they took that and mixed it with their stuff and basically made that
What now?
voodoo. If you look up voodoo, like the voodoo has actually like adopted the
From
the saints
Catholicism?
that go along in like Catholicism. You know how like they have like Saint Michael, the patron saint of,
Yeah.
I can't remember what he's the patron saint of. But
Um,
yeah, they use that in voodoo.
did not know that.
I
That's
told you, I
interesting.
like to look at religions.
I'll have to check that out. I was
And
always
there's actually a
really,
case of a dude who, you know, was basically turned into a zombie.
I've heard of those stories where they use, I forget the name of it right off the top of my head, but
Yeah, it's
double
like a
B.
plant they use to basically put them in a state where they're easily
Yes. Um,
malleable. You can tell them what to do and they'll do it. And that's
yeah.
all they think about.
Oh my gosh, yes. I saw the serpent in the rainbow, man. uh, um, let's see. I'm trying to find it on Datura. Datura is what, like, I looked up devil weed. Isn't that what it's called? Devil weed, I believe.
I have no idea.
Um, the last time I looked this up, I found it immediately, but it's like you can blow it, like you can actually make a powder out of it and blow it at people too, and it'll atropine. Yes, this is it.
If you hear
So,
something purring, that's my cat. She just decided to come lay in my lap.
oh,
And she's purring pretty hard.
mine. In I think it was last night's live. My big boy came through here and he was crying like for food and stuff, and it was like, wow, he's got like the saddest cry ever. It always makes me feel terrible. I had to stop and like feed him because he was being so pitiful. Uh,
Oh, I made sure to feed mine before I came on here.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I made sure not to forget.
Devil Mike's looking for the blue key card for the portal so he can shut down the sacrifice area for why for I get it, for COVID. I got it. That's funny. So Amanda says she hears the purr. Claire says she hears the kitty. Has anyone heard from Robbie? Stephanie, the last I heard, Joan left a comment on my video, so I asked her, and she said that he was very sick. They thought that he had the virus, but he has not been tested. I guess because of shortage of the tests or whatever. But they are, I guess, treating him for it. So he's isolating and he's staying at home. She said he was very, very sick, and that he's not really able to respond to messages or anything. But yeah, I'll
Put
pin that
like a
comment.
little post on his community page thing,
Uh-huh.
saying, hey, I'm really sick, pray for me.
Oh,
Going through a hard time, that, so I think
right.
that would be a good place, for everybody just to, put their well wishes for him, that way he doesn't have to go to 12 million different places to see them all.
Yes, that's a good idea. They've also been asking in different streams for people to send emails to him as well of support. We were talking about maybe putting together like a get well live stream for Robbie. I'd like to get a few creators in on that if we do it. So that might take a little while to get everybody coordinated, but I'm hoping that I can get, the creators that he's close to. And if anybody like listens to this, hears this, and they want to participate in doing something for Robbie, just send me an email. And people getting on and telling us how much we like him or how much we care about him and everything. And
I'm laughing at Lily Bell's comment. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. What'd you say?
Lily Bell, she said, Breakfast Club fan, I fell asleep before your live and I just woke up. Why was I dreaming of dicks, birds, Ouija boards? Breakfast Club, you're in my dream, but far away.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's one of the reasons why I like my soap videos, is because if I'm listening to something, it does get into my dreams, and sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes that's a bad thing. And I don't know why, but when that happens, I don't sleep well. So with my soap videos, for some reason, it never gets into my dreams. On his community message area, he wrote a message. So yeah, everybody check out Robbie's community area, and you can type something to him there. And
I don't really have that problem. I sleep like the dead.
Oh, you're lucky, man. I've always had such a hard time sleeping. Oh,
I very, very, very rarely dream. And
really?
usually if I do, it's just, something's about to happen.
Yeah.
Like if I dream about a spider, or if I have this one reoccurring dream that happens every time before people start dropping off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a crazy dream. Like I'm running around in this weird mansion looking house, and there's nothing but like all these weird staircases, and like nowhere leads to nowhere, and everywhere leads to nowhere. So I know when I have that dream, I'm about to lose somebody.
Oh, wow.
Like it never fails.
I used to have really, really long, really, really vivid, really, really crazy dreams. And a lot of times they were nightmares, but not always. But they were always extremely long and always extremely vivid. And that's another thing that kind of stopped after I moved out of my hometown as well. I mean, I still dream, and sometimes they're really vivid, but it used to be like an every night thing. Like I would always have an every night dream. And it was just a toss up as to whether it would be good or bad. But when I go home and visit my mom and stuff, I'll have dreams like I used to back in the old days. And my mom still lives in that town. So It just occurred to me that that actually happens. And I've actually like had dreams where I was like singing something or a song was playing or something, and it's not a song that like exists.
Yeah.
Like I've woken up and Googled the lyrics from it and stuff, and like they don't exist. Uh,
Sorry, I just put my cat
that's
out.
okay. I was looking at chat. Lily Bell said there was a creepy voice in between me speaking, but she can't remember what was said. It's probably better that you don't remember, Lily. That's pretty scary. Ghoul says he has a similar recurring dream to yours, but instead of a mansion, it's a 3-story dilapidated old house.
Creepy. See, now the mansion isn't like in good, state, so that is kind of creepy.
You know, I used to dream about this big old dilapidated house too. And a lot of times, like in the middle of it, there was like this big hole, and I was always afraid I was going to fall through it. And
Okay, now that's strange. We've all had like very, very similar reoccurring dreams since childhood.
mhm. And there was always a lot of steps in it too. And one time I dreamed I
Yes,
went to
like
that house.
staircases
Yeah.
everywhere. Needless staircases.
Yes, and I was always afraid that I was going to go up those stairs and I was going to end up falling out the hole. It was
See,
like
I
I
was
knew
always
it was
afraid to go
going to
down the
happen.
stairs. Like I was
But
always in a library looking place,
one
and
time
I'm always afraid to go down the stairs.
oh my gosh, yes. So mine was more like industrial stairs, like the metal mesh stairs. But one time I dreamed that I was in that house with my best friend when I was in high school, and I dreamed that she fell through the hole, and I couldn't get to her. You know, like every staircase I went to, like led somewhere, but
Yeah, like it was the wrong one.
yeah,
Like
like
you could never pick the right one to go.
yeah, even though we were walking together. Well, I
And you
got
can't
told the
ever
next day,
control that dream. Like I can
no,
usually control my dreams and point them in the direction I want them to go. But
right?
like this one I can't control. I'm totally at like the mercy of this dream.
Well, here's the freakiest thing is when I went to school the next day, my friend came up
Definitely
to
ghoul.
me and she said, I had a fucked up dream last night and you were in it. And proceeded to tell me about how she dreamed we were in this freaky old mansion with all these steps and how she fell through this giant hole and basically like ended up in like some kind of like hell-like place. And she could hear me screaming for her and she could hear my footsteps,
Oh,
but I
that's
never
creepy.
like came. Yeah.
That's really creepy.
Yeah. Katrina said she's going live later. That's awesome. I'm hoping I do know her, Stephanie, and I'm hoping pretty soon we're going to have her on my channel because I'm very, very curious to get her take on like some of the things I've been telling you all about. I've always wanted to talk to somebody who had the kind of talents that Katrina has
Yeah, I'm
and
definitely coming up
knowledge
on that one.
has. But,
I won't. I'm not like a stream whore or anything like that, but I will definitely come up on that one.
oh hell yeah, hell yeah! I know lots of people who would like to. When she was on Nikki's 5 a.m., I don't know if I'll be awake then or not. Um, but I don't know if anybody saw her on Nikki's stream, but it was so interesting when she was on there and she had them reading people, Nikki and Robbie. It was so cool. And they were like they did a pretty good job too. That was what was freaky.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
kind of creepy.
So Dream
Is
Inter
Amber still
Amanda,
here? Is she coming?
I don't know. I haven't seen her. Amanda says she has a book on dream interpretations. You might be interested in this then, Amanda. And of course, other people too. Tomorrow, Jessica and I are going to do a live stream on dreams and stuff and dream interpretations.
Oh, y'all
And
can definitely talk about like this mass reoccurring dream that everybody seems to be having.
there you go. I am knocking. It's Copper Dick, also known as Dick Vernon, who is on stage tonight, or Copperstar, either one. That's who's on
Yeah,
panel tonight.
it's just me.
Just our Copper girl. But yeah, I think tomorrow is going to be a lot of fun. And of course, anybody who has something they want to talk about, if you have had crazy dreams or precognitive dreams or dream sharing or any kind of crazy experience like that, that would be great. And Stephanie, you mod for Katrina? I don't blame you, girl. I would love to be there for one of her live streams. I always kind of conk out. I've tried before to wait up for her, but she says that she would be glad to come on someday. So I'm just hoping that I can work it out sometime really soon. I'm very excited about that. Amanda says an old house signifies a reunion or renewal of an old association. Interesting.
I guess that means I'll be seeing all my family at the funeral.
Yep. Maybe so. Or maybe it means new. No, she says an old. Maybe
I'm on breakfast, Stephanie.
Yeah, she mods for breakfast. Well, you also mod for Misery, and she's going to be not modding for Susan.
I also mod for Susan Bonds.
I'm low-key jealous about that. I love Susan. I love
Susan. She is so awesome.
Amanda says a dream featuring an empty house suggests you're grieving over a recent loss, broken relationships, or missed opportunity.
Yeah, it definitely fits.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool, Stephanie. I know. I'm willing to wait on her. Like, I'm so excited and enthusiastic about having her on. Like, I'll wait until it happens. I'll be patient, but I'm very, very excited about it. I'm hoping it happens sometime soon.
I know Susan wants me to do a live with her and one of her other viewers about the 90 Day Fiance episode thing where the dude's like, yeah, he's like, this girl keeps like saying she'll meet him, but she never meets him. And like, I don't think he's even talked to her. It's crazy.
Stephanie, are you joking, or I thought you knew that's Copper Dick? Yeah, I think she's joking. Okay, never mind.
They just want to see somebody write Copper Dick in chat.
Oh,
I've
no,
started some monsters.
It's Copperstar, Stephanie. Copperstar girl, or Dick Vernon is my mod.
Or as I like to call him, Copper Dick.
Copper Dick, yeah. She doxed herself, so most of my
mods. I don't have like millions of alts and stuff, so I am me. I don't hide that I am me.
Well, yeah, it's okay, Stephanie. I think this is the first time she's ever been on panel, so like anywhere, you wouldn't know the voice.
Anyone's first time anybody heard the voice.
Tonight?
Huh?
Cass said Misery went live tonight. I never got a notification about it.
I didn't either.
Yes, this is Copper up in the panel. Yes. Yes, it is. Stephanie says hi. All hail the Copper Dick. Yes. Yeah, I can't believe Misery went live and I didn't get a notification. Like, I'm about sick of that shit. Fucking YouTube, damn it.
It's because it's all bots right there now.
Yeah, for real. Like, I can't remember who it was who went live, but I never got the notification till after they were done. And as soon as they were done, the notification popped up.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. I was joking around with Lord, and I was joking with him and saying I was going to come on and do a funny voice, but yeah, I was a little too nervous.
People messaging me. Somebody just told me they went outside and there was a grasshopper there waiting for them. I never knew until tonight that grasshoppers are supposed to be like escorts or whatever for.
I think anything really can be an escort. It just has to have meaning with the person it's, showing itself to, or, being there for.
Right. Well, yeah, that makes sense. And I think with anything, like living or breathing, flowers, like I've heard of people talking about like flowers growing, and stuff. And so I think you're right about that. Like anything living could possibly be uh, an escort or a sign. Um, but I think,
Chris, you are so full of it.
who is?
Beerus.
Oh. Oh, he's right. You do have a nice natural voice. Um, is Misery a different guy? Like he's another person as well on YouTube? I don't know. I didn't hear it. And I'm sure he probably didn't keep it up. That's what I went to look to see if I got any notifications, and I did not at all.
No, I think he's like the same on YouTube as he is off YouTube. If that's what you were meaning.
Oh, okay. I totally
I think, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And that's why we love him.
Yeah. I think he's like totally a love me or hate me kind of guy.
Sometimes you have to be.
Le champion. Amen. There we go. I miss him streaming, and I don't see any signs at all. Are you sure he streamed tonight?
Gosh, I know. I was watching his Reddit videos earlier.
Oh, that's
before
what
coming on. I love listening to those. I just love putting those stories on and letting them play, like just through the whole playlist.
You knew one of my stories is in his playlist, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if I'd ever told you.
That's one of my favorite videos. Like that one. Yeah, I love those stories.
Well, it is mine too, because I'm in there, but I was so excited. I was like, because I was such a big fan of his channel when he was doing the Reddits, like that's how I got to following him. And it was like, I don't know, like I felt the same way as if it'd been like, I'm trying to think of someone to compare it to, but like, I don't know.
Amen, Lord.
I got starstruck about it. That's a good way to put it. I was starstruck about it.
Yeah. I meant to write like my narcissist stories down because my sister's a total narcissist. Yeah, no contact at this point. Yay. But yeah, by the time I was ready to write my stories down, he had switched to the true crime.
Right. I was wondering.
And then I just like, you know what? Nah, I don't want to write my stories because I don't really want anybody else to read them.
I feel that way about some of them, but at the time I just wanted to, I was practicing my writing. So I picked some pretty innocuous stuff, like my birthday cake story. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't see any signs at all of him going live.
Ooh.
He's all Asian. Yeah, he's Korean, I believe. And his name is Jimmer or James, and yes, he's really Asian. An outlet to vent frustrations, yes.
Yep, Lord Beerus, one of the original OGs.
Yeah.
Give him a shout out, make his head swell.
Yeah, there you go.
Not that
media for a reason. You said amen. That's the truth. He just like, that's what I like about him though, is like he always is just kind of like, I love that I don't give a fuck kind of attitude, and just kind of tells it like it is, and I like that. That's also why I like Neri as well. I like people who just say what they mean
and mean what they say.
What they say. That's the truth.
Sorry, that little saying popped in my head.
That's okay. I was thinking it. Absolutely. Devil Mike says he's Korean too. Everybody wants to be like Misery. I'm Korean now. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, When you're that cool,
Ain't that the truth?
everybody either wants to be you or be near you.
Yep. They want to be you or be with you. We'll just say it. He's quite, I think so too.
Oh, sweet. Laotian? Stephanie's husband is Laotian.
Oh, nice.
I hope I said that right in my hick accent. I'm so sorry if I butchered it.
It sounded good to me. Of course, I have a hick accent too, so maybe I'm not the best judge of that. Okay, so Jessica's asking for a link. She said she's got a good story to tell us. So,
Sweet, because I'm running out of things to say. I said good because I'm running out of things to say.
Well, that's okay. You're not under any pressure to talk any more than you want to or feel like talking. So if you can hang out while she's up here, it's up to you. If you want to drop off, that's fine too. But there's your link, Jessica. And if anybody in the chat has any stories they want to tell, you're more than welcome to come up anytime you want, or you can email me your stories and we can do it at a future time as well. I've got my email address running across the bottom there, and I've said this and I'll say it again, anybody who wants to come on my channel and talk, we'll find the time and the room for you. No matter what it is you want to talk about. I don't always do themes. Sometimes I just do, let's just talk. So,
you do all the fun stuff.
We're running out of things to say. We all run out of things to say.
I know, Cass. I can talk a stop sign till the paint falls off.
I love that. Say it again. I just like hearing you say it in your voice.
I can talk a stop sign till the paint falls off.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
As my mama used to say, I've never met a stranger I didn't like.
There you go. I heard the story. It was, and I'm sure it's probably just an urban legend, but it's about, Southern accents like us. So people always have stories. And this is one I heard told a lot, that some dude from, I don't know where, someplace that's not the country, was in our town, and they were talking on the phone, and they were trying to give an address, or they were trying to get directions to somewhere. And they asked the person on the other end of the phone if it was too far, and the connection was bad, so the person couldn't hear him. And he was like, is it far? 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 How far is it? And a couple minutes later, a cop car comes driving up, and they stop next to the guy, and he's like, what do you need, officer? And he's like, we're looking for the far. Where is it? Yeah, that was an old story.
No, Ms. No, Lord, because I'm not going to take anything you give me.
Brownie. Those things are gross anyway. I've never, ever had a magic brownie that was good.
Oh, then you have not had any that I've made.
No, I haven't. I can agree with that there, but I've had people swear that they're good, but they always taste like pine needles to me.
Oh, no. You gotta do it right. One of these days, breakfast. One of these days.
Hell yeah.
I will make you some brownies.
I'm going to come visit you one of these days, and we're going to go to, I don't know, we're going to take a girls trip together someday. I've got it all figured out. We'll go to the beach or something, and you can bring brownies, and I'll just bring what my neighbor grows in his backyard.
There you go. No, there's a trick to brownies. You just got to make it with love and butter.
This chick that I used to work with, she was this little hippie girl. I absolutely adored her. She was so sweet. But she brought some, they were actually cookies, not brownies. But she always said the trick was the butter. And she brought some and gave them to a few of us. And everybody else liked theirs, but all I tasted was pine needles.
She didn't use enough butter.
I once had some brownies where they didn't strain it first, and oh my god, that was nasty. I thought I was gonna throw up. It was the most disgusting thing. Oh, they just threw it in there and just like cooked it like that.
I don't think you would like mushrooms either.
Oh, I've had them. I didn't like them, but I managed to eat them.
They taste so. It's like you got a mouthful of dirt.
You talking about real mushrooms or?
Fun mushrooms.
Okay, yeah. Those are I've had them straight out of the ground before. Talk about nasty. What I did was I rolled them up into little balls and swallowed them like pills.
And before anybody else says anything, that's about the extent of where my experimentation went.
Everybody's had a little experimentation with that kind of thing, I think. Like I hear people talk about it all the time. So mushrooms
But I did have hippie parents, so
Stephanie said mushrooms are nasty, blah, but they are fun. And I can agree with both of those statements.
They're only fun if the people around you are fun.
Yes.
If you got a negative Nancy, you're going to, yeah.
A negative Nancy or somebody who thinks they're cute and tries to mess with you because they think it's cute.
Yeah, that too.
Those kind of assholes.
You just got to know who they like to be around. Of course, I don't think I would do mushrooms now that I'm so old.
Exactly. Oh, gross, Lord Beerus. Talking about veiny mushrooms and such. Ugh. Oh, good night, Claire. I'm sorry you've got to go, but we'll see you at tomorrow night's detention, hopefully.
Night.
I threw Jessica a link. I don't know. Oh, she's. I'm so sorry. I've had her backstage and I forgot.
There, Lord Beers.
Oh, you're fine. I was actually enjoying y'all's conversation.
I was sitting there waiting for you to come up, and I was like, "Where the hell is she?" I forgot I had to let you up.
Well, I had to let the dog that I was playing with earlier when you and I talked.
Yeah.
And instead of, because she likes to bark if I leave her out too long. And people like to dox my dogs. So I didn't feel like this one needed to be doxed.
Your dog?
Yes, I've had my dog dox. That's funny, right?
My feet was bad.
Actually, it was my husband's. Well, it's both of our dogs, but it's more his dog. And I made a photo of it. And at the bottom, I put, "Why dox me? She's sleeping in a cute position."
Right.
You know, just got to be humorous. Cobby, this is the most I have heard you talk. Like, I love your voice. I love your voice.
I do too.
I'm glad somebody does. I think I sound like a dude in my head.
Oh, you don't sound like a dude at all, no.
Not at all. Like, it feels like when you first started talking, like, I know I've talked to you before, like, once on a call, but when you started telling your stories, it was one of those things, like, it was comfortable. It was kind of like, it's not just comfortable. It's like safe, friendly kind of thing. If that makes sense.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Hi, Claire. Hi, Cass.
Hi.
Everybody can be who they want to be with me. I judge no one.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we all like about you. That's definitely. Plus, you're very blunt. I like that. I love blunt people. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, it's gotten me in trouble sometimes.
Lord Beerus, I have not seen you in forever.
He's been hiding.
I thought so. I was wondering why he wasn't around.
Lurking in those shadows, he has been.
Lurking in the shadows, yep. I was trying to find out why your all's names don't show up because people keep wondering who's on and panel, and I can't figure out like where to change that at. So if anybody knows, like, I would love to have that information. So I don't know where it is in the settings. But while I was doing that, I just wanted to mention this. I don't think he's in chat anymore, but when I was looking at that, my ban list popped up and the glare was on there. And I don't know
Really?
how it would be in my ban list for people on my chat or on my panel, but I'm really confused about how that happened. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to mention that. So if you're listening, Will, and you ever tried to come up here and couldn't, I'm really, really sorry. So I'll have to send him like an email or something and let him know that if that happened, that I wasn't being an asshole. He was up here not too long ago, though, so I'm so confused on that. Anyway,
No,
anybody
Cynthia, it's my first time up ever, anywhere,
ever anywhere? I'm
ever
so
anywhere.
I'm super honored by that. Like, for real. Does anybody
I-
know how to change the settings to make that to make their name show up underneath? No, Cynthia, you haven't
No
had-
idea.
I can go through my settings if I go and get on my computer and try to walk you through it.
No, that's okay. I'll figure it out later. Like, I was just
We can
thinking
just keep
about
telling
something that
everybody
needs
who
to
we
be
are. It's okay. Nice introduction.
Yeah. Cynthia says you sound adorable. You do sound adorable.
Oh, thank you.
A spirit came into my computer. Okay, so Jessica, you said you had a lot of stories to tell. No, Cassie was banned from coming on panel. He was banned from the studio. I don't know why. Anyway, you said you had lots of stories to tell, so I'm excited to hear some of them. Don't forget we're going on tomorrow, but I still want to hear what you got to say.
Okay, I'll start with the first one. It does kind of go in tomorrow with tomorrow's theme, and I'll talk about it a little bit more. But I think you've heard me discuss that my grandfather passed away, right?
Yes.
And so actually, I was not close with my grandfather, and my mom was not close with my grandfather for many, many years. The last time I saw him, he had just gotten remarried. He had remarried a bunch of times, and they had a birthday party since my birthday is literally Labor Day weekend. It was my 18th or 19th birthday. And he always had a lot to do with my mom's brother and his daughter. So they were always around and stuff. And the reason why he didn't have anything to do with my mom really, or me, is because it was one of those things that he did not want my mom to marry my dad. And he was really against it. Well, she did her own thing, of course. And for a long time, I had only maybe casually seen him if he stopped by just to check on her occasionally, sort of thing. We had never really interacted. Well, I did not know at the time. There was one morning, it was a Friday morning. I was evidently dead asleep, and all of a sudden I just fell out of bed. Like something pulled me out of bed, and I hit the floor really hard. And my husband jumps up and he's like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell just happened? Because I'm not like that. I don't just fall out of bed. It's not a normal thing.
Right.
Well, I could remember, now this is going to sound strange. As I fell, or right before I fell, I was having a dream. And in the dream, I was listening to a song. And you can laugh at me if you want, but it was by somebody named Ryan Cabrera. And he had one hit song, literally, and it was called On the Way Down.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I kind of like that song.
Yeah, I do too.
On the way down, right? That's kind of how it goes. On the way down.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I finally, like, my husband helped me get up and all that, and I was like, I told him what I remembered, which was the song, and he said, well, that's interesting considering, you know, you fell out of bed. About 3 weeks later, my mom called me, and she was in tears, and she said, your grandfather died.
Oh, wow.
And at first, I didn't know how to feel about it. I had a lot of different emotions. I felt angry. That was my first feeling, is I was angry. And I felt really sad for my mom. I think that's where my sadness came in at first, was with my mom. Well, they had an appointment with his estate lawyer. And I don't know how it makes some of you feel. Like, for example, if somebody has nothing to do with you and they acted like they didn't want to have anything to do with you and they didn't try, when they die, if they leave you something, how would that make you feel? Because I actually felt pretty bad. That actually made me feel worse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It probably would make me feel bad too.
We found out that day with going to the estate lawyer. My grandfather had already been cremated. My mom and my uncle did not know that. They found out that day. Evidently, his brother, who is estranged from the family, had him cremated, got him from hospice, had him cremated, took his wallets that were left over and some other stuff, and said that he was going to keep the ashes until my mom and my uncle paid for the cremation. Oh, yeah.
Oof.
That kind of tells you. So we were basically, my uncle had found out 2 weeks prior. He had been trying to get in touch with my mom. He had asked my cousin to get in touch with me. My cousin and I do not get along. And so she didn't. And he eventually ended up finding my mom's number and calling her. Well, besides all that, I remember when I went into his house, I sat in one spot, and it was really weird being there. Like, I felt like he was there. I knew he was there. It was just something kind of overwhelming. And I still wasn't really showing emotion at that point.
Right.
As I was sitting in the house and in this specific chair, I got a phone call from Amy. And I had not been around as much. And she said, hey, I just wanted to call and check on you. You haven't been, like, you haven't really talked much. I haven't talked to you. Are you okay? And I whispered, my grandfather died and we're going over some paperwork now. I will talk to you later. So it was kind of weird that she knew. It's like I won't say she knew that somebody died, but she definitely knew that something was wrong. So that night, when we left the house, I literally got up from the specific chair, walked out, and we left. I never went into any other rooms. And that night, I ended up actually talking to Amy. And that was one of the first times that I broke down. So I wasn't really sleeping. And when I finally did get some sleep, I started having very vivid, weird dreams. And the first dream I had, my grandfather, he came to me. And he actually said to me, I know you will not forgive me right now, but I have a pink shirt that I loved. If you find it, everything will be okay. I promise. And I remember waking up and Amy and them are still awake. And I was like, what the hell? What does this mean? Like, what does he mean, a pink shirt? I haven't been around him most of my life. Like, what the? So I'm a little bit more irritated that this dream happened because I'm already angry with him.
Right.
So the next time we went back to the house, because we had to meet the estate people so they could put stuff up for sale and whatnot, I had told my mom on the way there about my dream. And we were all sitting in the dining room. And she asked, do you know if our father had a pink shirt? Did he wear a pink shirt? And everyone, my uncle, my cousin, his fiance, all said no, he didn't. They had never seen him in one. And they had actually seen him a lot. It wasn't sporadic. It was constant. And they all said no, absolutely not. I was in the garage doing something and I heard my mom yell my name. So I'm like, Mom, what? I'm trying to help, blah, 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 blah. You know, kind of still annoyed that I'm in his house and I know he's there and I'm angry.
Right.
She was sitting on his bed and draped across her lap, which I still have the shirt, was a pink polo shirt on a hanger.
Wow.
Yeah. That really freaked me out. I had never been in any part of the house. I had not, in fact, I didn't even know what his bedroom looked like until that day. Well, then more things started happening. A couple nights later, I had another dream. And at this point, I still haven't really been sleeping that well. I'm sleeping off and on. I'm pretty much exhausted. I go
Sorry,
to
that's
sleep.
me. I got an alarm going off.
No, you're fine.
No, you're good.
I go to sleep, finally, and it's my grandfather again. And in each dream I have with him, it's kind of weird. It's like I'm sitting, I don't know if it's necessarily a theater because there's only a couple of chairs. And it's like I'm sitting there and he's playing stuff that I should know across the screen. Things that I guess he wanted to tell me or something. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
It gets more detailed, but that's how every dream played out with him. And I've noticed any serious dreams I have, that is how they will play out. Well, in this specific second dream, he said, I want you to tell your mother, I'm glad we made peace. Ask her if I was wearing a red or yellow shirt that day. So again, I wake up. I'm angry. I'm confused. And I flat out asked Amy and another person who kind of believes in the same things that I do. I said, am I going crazy? Do I need to see someone? Like, what's going on here? Because at this point, I'm like, I'm losing my fucking mind. My emotions are bothering me too much. So we ended up at this point, we were going back to his house about once a week just to pack up like personal items and things like that. So on the way down there again, I asked my mom, I said, did you ever see your father? before he died. And she asked me, she said, how do you know that? Because she had never told me. And my dad didn't know either.
Oh, wow.
And she asked me, she said, how do you know that? Did I tell you? And I said, no. And she said, yes, I saw him. He was a barber and he owned his own business. And they actually went to the back and sat down and talked. And he held her hand. My mom told me that he held her hand. And they both apologized to each other, that they literally made their peace. So I asked her the question, was he wearing a red or yellow shirt? She stopped the car, literally pulled off the side of the road, stopped the car, looked at me and said, Jessica, what the hell is going on? And I said, I have no idea. And I started to cry. And she said, the shirt was red with yellow stripes. She said, how do you know this? And so I started to explain it to her. And she said, I've had some weird dreams about my dad as well. She didn't go into detail at that point. But I asked her, I said, why is he trying to communicate with me? Like, what's going on? Why am I the person?
Right.
And so more stuff like that, like sometimes I feel like I can hear him. Like I remember certain phone conversations. And since time has passed and other dreams and feelings that I've had towards him, he told me that he was not going to go away until I forgave him. He told me that in a dream. I finally forgave him. He still hasn't went away. It's not as strong as it used to be, but he's still there.
Now, have you really forgiven him, or did you just tell him you forgave him?
No, I actually had to really forgive him. I actually found out something. This was kind of the turning point. So everybody has fights in their marriage, and it happens. And when you start off and you have a kid right away, things can go crazy. Well, my parents, when I was about 3 years old, they had gotten into a fight and they had separated. Well, I went to my grandmother's house, my dad's mother, and I stayed there for a little bit. And of course they worked it out, and now they've been married, let's see, 35 years.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, they had their bumps, but they've made it. I ended up finding out from my grandmother on my dad's side that during that separation, my mom's dad had actually called her and called my grandmother and had asked to see me and asked if he could take care of me for a bit. And she refused. She said, absolutely not. I don't think her father would like that. Like, it was more so, of course, adults thinking about, you know, their feelings, not what was necessarily could have been good for me. So when I found that out, and my grandmother told me that, I was like, okay, I guess he really did want me as his granddaughter. I guess he really did want me around. But I was really confused because and this is not easy to admit, one of the reasons that I could not forgive him and I hated him was when my mom was pregnant with me. My parents had not gotten married yet. He offered to pay for an abortion, and my mom said no.
Oh.
Yeah. I found that out not as a teenager, not as a young adult, but as a child.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I hated him.
Well, no wonder. Yeah, I mean, I can understand. That's.
I was so pissed and angry. And then to find out,
Whoever told you that was messed up for telling you too, though.
yeah. Believe me, I know. Yeah. Um when I went to the estate lawyer with my mom and my uncle and them, and I found out that he had left stuff for myself, my mom, and her brother, and my first cousin. I was angry. And I actually said, I don't want this shit. Do I have to take it? That was my first response. And the lawyer said, yes. Because it was willed to me.
Right.
And the whole time I was just sitting there angry. And I found out later that day, he died from, so he had throat cancer. And he had something happen with his heart. They did a cath. And they went, I think they put a stent in his heart. Something happened, or it was like a valve blockage. I'd have to ask my mom. But since he was diagnosed with cancer, he was not strong enough to really go through the heart surgery. They shouldn't have done it, but they did. When he came out, he was weak. The cancer actually returned, and they sent him to hospice. He did not want to be buried. He did actually want to be cremated, but he wanted his ashes spread at one of his favorite beaches. That hasn't been done yet, because they're still dealing with other things.
Right.
But I found out that day that the reason he wanted to be cremated and the reason why he wanted it to be a secret that he died was because he didn't want it to be like he existed in this world anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he knew. He definitely had some demons. He definitely had some stuff that he knew that he had did that was not right. He had some demons, definitely. I don't know very many of them. I only know a couple. But like I said, when I heard that, if he didn't exist, then my mom wouldn't exist. I wouldn't exist.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You wouldn't exist.
Yeah. So to me, when I heard that, I was like, this is going to sound really bad. I was like, the son of a bitch is just being selfish again. Like, when is it not going to be about him? And I said that. And my mom didn't argue with me. She wasn't like, don't say that, or don't. She could tell that this was going to be something I was going to have to battle. And I did for months. But I still hear him sometimes. I did forgive him. He still comes around every now and again. But we've made our peace, I would say.
Well, that's good. At least, at least you're at peace with it, even if he's still there. At least it's not a torment to you anymore.
I was talking to somebody. There's a place I go to in my town, and I'm actually really good friends with her. She owns like a shop that's dedicated to different religions and stuff like that, and has all these really cool things. And I was talking to her about it. And I asked her, I said, why does it feel like he's communicating with me? Of all people, like we didn't know each other. There really was no connection there. And she said, because your soul and your heart is open to the idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a little while to kind of rationalize that.
That's exactly what I was thinking in my mind. Like, you have to have somebody whose mind is open to the experience. And a lot of the older generations, and I mean, a lot of people from our age as well, but the older they are, the less likely they are to be open to it, you know?
They stop believing in magic.
Well, not only that, but it seems like each generation is a little bit more open-minded than the first. Or than the one before it. It seems that way to me anyway.
Well, I mean, also back like 100, 200 years ago, everybody was so superstitious it wasn't funny.
Yep.
I mean, look at the witch trials.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. That
Yes,
like a couple hundred years ago, you would have been hung for a witch for that.
And see, when you make a good point, because when I was thinking this, and okay, so I have this really good friend, and she's extremely religious. I love her to death. She's one of the sweetest people I know. I've known her for years, and she is Methodist, and she's very, very, very strong in her faith. And I admire people that are like that. I absolutely do. And when I talked to her about it, she had never been through anything like that. And she asked me, would you like to talk to my pastor? And I thought about it for a couple days, and I ran it past Amy, and I ran it past my friend that owns the shop. And they said, I don't think you need a pastor for this. I don't know if that would be a good idea at this point, because I was like, maybe I did need to talk to somebody. Maybe I really was going crazy, because that's what I felt like.
Right.
So when I asked my mom, I said, Mom, should I talk to someone? And she said, you can do whatever you choose, but you're not crazy, and stop feeling that way. It's okay. And that just kind of put me at peace. Like, it kind of gave me validation that my mom actually believed what I was dreaming. She knew that it wasn't something that was just happening. Because
that's exactly how I felt when my mom, you know, when I had my visitation and my mom didn't, exactly the same as you did. Like, it made me feel like I wasn't crazy, especially.
Yeah, and that was really comforting. So on that note, I actually have a funny story to add to this. It's gonna come at the this part's actually really funny. So in the midst of all this and everybody being upset and everything, my mom was driving with the window down, and it was nighttime. She was about to pull in to where they live, and a bat flew into her car.
Oh my God.
And this is literally right after these dreams and the estate stuff and everything. And so she calls me and she says, Jessica, there's a bat in my car. There's a bat in my car. And I'm like, what the hell? Why is there a bat in your car? So she had been trying to, I guess, hit it. And I'm like, Mom, don't touch it. You'll get bit. You'll get rabies. Don't get rabies. And she's like, no, this is scaring the hell out of me. So she opened all the doors. And I could hear my dad in the background. He had came outside. And he was like, what are you doing? And she said, there's a bat in the car. It won't leave. And finally, it just flew out. And my dad, I could hear him laughing in the background. And I'm like, what's so funny? You could have got bit by a bat. What's going on here? And my dad speaks up and says, you could have been beating the hell out of your father.
Oh, God.
And I just lost it. I was like, oh, my God. That could actually... And my mom, it took her a minute, but then she started laughing. She was like, yeah, that could be a thing. It was just funny timing.
I never knew that bats were like supposed to be escorts either. Like, I'm learning so much tonight. I never knew that.
Yeah, bats can be. I just thought it was so weird, and the fact she was freaking out, and then my dad said that was hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
And it hasn't happened again. So I was like, that is just weird timing.
Yeah,
But yes,
really.
I did make my peace with him. Things have moved along a lot smoother with his death since I made peace with him. I've noticed. But that's kind of
true of any major thing in your life, you know, that you don't have peace with. Like, it will affect pieces of your life you don't even realize.
Yeah, as I was dealing with those emotions, my husband was like, he asked one of our really good friends, he's like, I've never had anybody die like this. And he was like, I really love her, but I don't know how to help her.
Oh.
And he could not help me. Like, it wasn't like I was taking anything out on him. It wasn't like that. But like one night we went to dinner and we were just talking, and I was staring at the menu and I just started sobbing. And it was like that for a good, like 2 months. Or like I would talk to Amy on the phone or someone else on the phone, and they would ask me, how are you doing? And I would just start crying.
I was that way when I lost somebody. They were, the guy was 28 at the time. I'd known him my whole life. And another guy that I'd pretty much grown up with as well, like, just shot and killed him kind of out of nowhere. And like, I was like that for a long time afterwards too. I think when somebody passes, but especially if they're with you like that, like, it's like it taps into some kind of, like, when you feel them around you, it's like they tap into some kind of energy, and it just keeps like pouring out all the time. It's overwhelming.
Right.
Especially when they're near you like that. I don't know if you're familiar with, and I know it's like kind of weird to be bringing up movies, but there's a movie called What Dreams May Come. Are you familiar with it?
That is literally my favorite movie. I love that movie.
Okay.
It's one of them.
It's one of my favorites too. It's, for one thing, it's beautiful, but it made me think of like when he is around his wife, and he was like asking how he could help her, and they were basically saying the longer you stick around, the harder it's going to be for her. I don't remember the exact wording. It was very, the advice he was given by the guy was very, poetic, but that's what he basically said.
Cuba Gooding Jr. was his angel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess technically it was Ian McKellen, but yes. Remember, it was like the doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, he had saved him or something, or the patient died on his table because he was a doctor or something. In the movie, Robin Williams was.
Yeah, he was the doctor, a kid doctor. Yeah.
Oh,
I think that was his old. It was like his old mentor because he kept calling him Doc. Remember?
yes, you're right. It was. It was.
And it turned out like that it was his son in disguise or something.
Um,
And
so
the
I have,
actual doctor was Ian McKellen.
yeah, I need to rewatch that because even
Yeah.
though it was really sad,
It
that's
was really
actually,
uplifting too in a lot of ways, I think.
it was because that is actually how I kind of view where we go. I
Yeah.
think if we're good and whatnot, then we go to our most favorite place, our most favorite memory. That's where we end up.
Yeah. A lot of
And
people
then,
think that way, or just like your idea of heaven is what you end
right.
up with. Like he lived inside one of his wife's, and to me, that's why I love that movie so much is because of that part, like where he wakes up and he's in a living painting, and that is just one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Is what they did. If you've seen it, like on a big screen, I saw it in the theater, and it doesn't come across as well on TV as it did in the theater, but what they did with the CGI in that movie is freaking amazing. Freaking amazing. Um,
Yes, because the painting that he actually ended up in was a painting his wife had painted.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
it was the
was,
place they went on, like where they met, I think, if I remember correctly, and where they wanted to live eventually.
yes. And Cynthia, you are right. His wife did commit suicide
Yeah.
in the movie. He had to go and save her soul.
Yeah. Pretty much. It was kind of like Euripides or Orpheus and Eurydice, I think is how you say that, mixed with Dante's Inferno. Like that's kind of
Yeah,
like the movie in a nutshell.
pretty
But
much.
it was really, really sad, but it was crazy how uplifting it was at the same time. Very, very strange little movie. But um, at any rate, sorry, I didn't mean to go on and on about a movie, but it
Oh,
just
no,
made me
you're fine. I
think
love it.
uh, I'm a big movie buff, so I relate a lot of things to movies in a lot of ways. But
You'll have to do a movie night one night because, yeah,
oh, hell
I
yeah.
think we all definitely, there's a lot of good ones out there that people haven't seen. Like, before I get into my next thing, It Could Happen to You. Do you guys remember that movie? That's actually one of my favorites.
Is that the one with Bridget Fonda and I can't remember who the guy is.
Nicolas Cage.
Okay, and it's about
Yes.
don't they like he gives like the waitress
Waitress. Yes.
says he'll split this lottery ticket with her if she wins or something, or if he
Yep.
wins.
Yes.
Okay,
That
yeah.
that is definitely one of my favorites. It's in my top 5.
You know, I don't know if I ever watched it all the way through. The only thing I remember about that movie is her buying a jar of macadamia nuts and sitting down and eating them. Like that was like a big thing. Like the first thing she did when she got the money was like buy a big thing of macadamia nuts.
Right. And then in the next part, her ex comes in and takes the macadamia nuts. Oh
Oh
my
man,
gosh.
that's funny. I love 80s and 90s movies, especially. Like, oh my gosh, there's just
Point
no
Break is another one. I love Point Break.
New Point Break, not old, or Old Point Break, not New Point Break.
Old. Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves.
Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves, yes. I don't even
That
remember
is,
who's in the new one, just that it was stupid.
I never watched the new one either.
I made the
My
mistake and
favorite,
watched the new Footloose, and I left the theater so angry.
that was the movie that actually got me into wanting to skydive because the line was, there's nothing like jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
Awesome. I've never ever been skydiving. I've always wanted to, but never been able to, or never had the opportunity.
I've
So
been bungee jumping. I've not done skydiving yet.
I
I
did.
want to.
I went to Kings Island one time and they had this, it was like a combination of the two. It was
Hmm.
this thing, like you got in a body harness and you were attached at, there were these 2 points. So you were attached in front and attached in back to different things. And then you free flew and you swooped up through this arch. It was like 12 stories, and you swooped up like almost like a giant human swing or something. So I did that, which is kind of sort of like bungee jumping, but not really.
Yeah.
It's not really bungee jumping, but it's about as close as you get. So I did that, and I was terrified to do it, but I absolutely loved it. Like, they gave you a tape, because this was before DVRs or DVDs, but they gave you a videotape of it, and you can just hear me whooping like a crazy woman. I'm like, woo, all the way down.
Yeah, they have that at the Six Flags here, and they did have it. They did call it the Superman flight, but I think they changed the name of it because they actually made the Superman roller coaster. But they still have that. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've done that too. That's fun.
It's badass, isn't it?
It is. It's one of the best. I actually want to try indoor skydiving. Cool.
I would like to try that sometime too. I've seen it, and I think that would be super cool to try. Seen it on TV, never in real life.
Yeah.
Tapes, so good. VHS tapes, such good memories. Yes, sir.
So my second thing is a little bit more sinister. Well, it's not like bad, but it's definitely nerve-wracking. I'll say that. So, my husband and I were going to go and spend a day tubing and just having fun. And we were talking on the way, and we missed our turn because we just weren't paying attention. And this was like 6 months after we got married. So what the hell? I'll just dox myself. Oh, well. Not like they don't know anyway.
It's entirely up to you, but I mean, everybody knows. So.
Yes. So the road was called Blood Mountain, and it actually connects between Georgia and I think South or North Carolina. It's one of them that if you ride it all the way up, you end up in another state. It's 2 lanes. And so my husband turned around, and on our way down, there were a group of people, and they were on motorcycles. They were on crotch rockets, and they were riding. I was surprised to see them in pairs of 2, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 on this road. It was kind of neat, actually, that it was so small and they were riding like that.
Mm-hmm.
And as we got to the base of the mountain to get to where we were going to turn to, there was somebody on a Harley behind us, and out of nowhere, my husband was driving, I was passenger. He just knew something was going to happen. We've talked about it. He's kind of given like his take on it, but even with us talking, he was paying really, really good attention to what was going on around him. This lady actually was supposed to be with the group. Come to find out, the group that we had passed at the top of the mountain was an experienced group of riders. And this was a motorcycle gang. I won't say the name, but the group that was down at the bottom that she was supposed to be with was the inexperienced group. And the way that they were telling them to take the curves and how to ride the mountains was by Bluetooth. Well, she broke away because she was trying to catch up to the experienced group. She came around the curve. Something happened. She came around the curve. We don't know why she panicked, but when she came around the curve, she ran off on the shoulder, and she corrected. And instead of braking or going slower, she throttled and she hit my husband and I going 90 miles per hour
Oh,
in a Ford Focus.
you were going 90 miles an hour? Or she
No,
was?
we were going when the state trooper did the tire marks.
Uh-huh.
And based on what the guy on the Harley behind us said, we were actually clocked at going 14 miles per hour. She was
Okay.
going 90 miles per hour.
Gotcha.
The driver's side was fine. There wasn't a scratch, nothing. The bike literally did a cartwheel through the passenger side of the car, and it tossed it up and it threw it about 13 feet into the creek that was behind us.
God.
My husband does not remember seeing her die. He does not remember seeing her. He doesn't remember exactly what she did. Because at that moment, he was like, I don't want to hit this person. I don't want to hit this person. And he couldn't avoid it. There was nothing he could have done. So his brain was elsewhere. So when the bike basically tossed her off and she went up in the air, I watched her come crashing down on our car on her stomach. She was still wearing her helmet. And I know for a fact that our eyes connected. I know that I was literally the last person she saw before she died.
Mm-hmm.
I
Wow.
watched her try to grab at the hood to try to stay on. And when she did that, it literally threw her forward into the road and she hit face down. Her helmet came off, her jacket came off, and one of her boots came off.
Oh, wow.
My husband got out of the car and he stopped oncoming traffic. And these were I remember it was an Expedition SUV, and it was also the inexperienced group that she was supposed to stay with. So I saw this Expedition, and the first bike to arrive behind that was a crotch rocket that was carrying, it was a mom and her 6-year-old son. So when they pulled up, the little boy saw yeah.
Wow.
When my husband stopped the Expedition, it was a nurse. So she got out and she got beside the body. When he came back to the car, he said that I was still screaming. So that was a good maybe 2 to 3 minutes. And I did not realize I had been screaming that long.
Wow.
And it took about an hour for EMTs and stuff to get there. My husband helped me get out of the car. I literally could not feel my legs. I could not feel my hips, my lower back, my legs. It was awful.
Oh.
And I remember I got out of the car and I just sat down on the ground. And my husband's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I didn't answer him. Because I'm still sitting there like, did this really just... I'm thinking to myself, she's not dead. No, she's not dead. I saw her move. She's not dead. And I'm trying to convince myself of that. So he walked away and he came back over with an EMT. And the EMT was like, "I think you need to go to the hospital." And I said, "No, absolutely not. I will not leave my husband. I'm not going. I refuse to." And they said, "Well, I think you should because you don't have feeling." And I refused. I would not go. I said if I got worse, I felt like my body was in shock. I said if I got worse, that I would go on my own, but I was not leaving him. When my husband came back over, the EMTs went back to her. I asked my husband, I said, how's the car? Because that was actually a wedding present from my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
We had just gotten married 6 months before that. So I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, my grandmother's going to kill me. Like what? That's what starts to go through my head. I start to panic. I started to literally panic.
Right.
And he said, no, it's not okay. Not at all. And the EMTs come back over. And I'm like, okay, the car's bad. I'll deal with that later. I finally processed that, got that out of my head. And I looked at the EMTs and I looked over at her body and I said, she's alive, right? She's okay. She'll be okay. At that time, I had actually stopped smoking. I had been off cigarettes for almost a year. EMT sat down beside me and said, no, she's dead. And I lost it. Completely and totally lost it. We had to sit there for 3 hours because traffic was backed up and it was only 2 lanes. We had to sit there with her body in the road, a sheet covering it.
Oh my God.
There was no reception on that mountain. And literally, we had to get a cop brought us home. And that was about 45 minutes away. Well, a couple of days later, they towed our car to a place near there. And I'm like, it's too far away. We need to get it towed to a shop here so we can get damages and stuff estimated. Well, her insurance company were being real dicks about it. And they finally towed it to a shop close by. And they said, well, we can fix this. It's fine. We'll fix it. And I said, I don't want to be back in that fucking car. My husband's not going to drive that car. I'm not going to drive it. You give it back to me. I'm going to put it in the fucking lake. Like, that's just how I said somebody died. You guys might not care, but I care.
Right.
And so our insurance company got involved and they took care of it. They completely totaled it out. And they treated us very well with it. Well, the day that we went to the place it was towed to go clean our stuff out of the car, I'll never forget this. I was picking up like CDs and just work stuff and everything. And there were these pieces. I thought a CD had broke or something had happened with the glove box or whatever. And I picked up this black kind of plastic piece. And I'm like, what is this? What's this? Where'd this come from? Because parts of our car that had been broken were actually in the back seat. Like the accident bent the front passenger tire like a sandwich.
Ooh.
It knocked it off the axle, the car off its axle.
Yeah, I was going to say I had a car that broke an axle and it did pretty much the same thing you're talking about. Like the tire was almost like flipped up or whatever, or flipped over.
Yeah, but during the time that I was in shock, that tire was right next to me. And I did not, I had to ask my husband, is the car okay?
Right.
Well, like a dumbass,
you were in shock. Of course you didn't notice. I mean,
but afterwards I felt stupid. And I understand now that, yeah, that was a shock thing.
Yeah.
But so let's see, it was knocked off the axle. Tire was like in a sandwich, basically. The main wiring harness for the vehicle was shattered. Oil and gas were leaking from the car. Actually, really lucky that there wasn't a fire.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
It was pretty bad. So as I'm picking stuff up, our belongings out of the car, I'm thinking to myself, I really don't want to touch anything in the back seat. Is there anything in the back seat? There wasn't. But on my side, there were these hard plastic pieces. And so my husband walked up beside me, and the guy that was doing the estimate for our car, I asked him, I said, what is this? I was holding the piece in my hand. I said, there's lots of these little pieces. And he said, oh, that is the visor from her motorcycle helmet. It was in your engine compartment. And I dropped it.
Oh my God.
That
They had put it in. I don't know if it flew in because of the windshield or the window. I don't
No,
know.
if it was in your engine compartment. That's
Yeah. It was sitting in the passenger side floorboard where I was at. And I said, okay, whatever. I don't want anything else out of this car. Not at all. And Mark was like, are you sure? And I said, no, I don't. I can't. I can't do this.
I
Yeah,
can't
that's my
blame
husband's
you.
name. But it freaked me out. And for the longest time, I had lots of dreams about her. When she died, we did not know her name. We were actually, when her experience group came back down the mountain, because they found out that there was a fatality, they just didn't know who it was. They thought that somebody from another group had went down. And when they pulled up to our car, they were absolutely furious with us.
why?
They were yelling. They were cussing. They were, you guys should have been watching where the fuck you were going. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And I'm sitting there sobbing. And I'm like, oh my God, we didn't mean to kill this woman. We didn't mean to kill this woman. And the guy that was on the Harley behind us and the other people that stopped and the state trooper who had previously came over and told my husband, look, there's nothing you could have done. This is not your fault. We see your tire marks. We see hers. They did no tests on him whatsoever. They just knew that it wasn't his fault.
Right.
They went over to the group and they said, you guys have this confused. She hit them. And it was silent. And it took about, I'd say 20 to 30 minutes, they all started to crowd around us. And they were apologizing. So I asked them her name. And they gave me her motorcycle name. And her name was Sky. Skyy. She had just joined the motorcycle group about a month and a half prior. She had not ridden in a long time because she used to ride on expressways, I found out. But she saw a friend killed on the expressway, and so she stopped. She wanted to do, that was really creepy. I actually found that on her motorcycle club page. I'll have to show you that breakfast. It was pretty creepy. So she wanted to do more mountain scenery type things. After, she did not have her wallet on her. There was no identification on her. No name, no nothing. The only thing that was left of her bike was the back end, the back tire, and the back tail of the license plate.
Oof.
Her bike was yellow and purple. It was a 1995 Suzuki. After doing research, I found out that after getting the police report as well, I found out that she had actually lived in Ohio. And the whole reason that she and her son, that was the only family she had left, was her son. The only reason she had came to Georgia was, I don't know if you guys remember that at that time period, scam jobs were kind of a thing where people would offer, oh, you can like put stuff in envelopes and you'll get paid, or you can, phone jobs, things like
Yeah.
that. Well, she had fell for a phone scam for a job. And so she had actually moved down here with her son. She had no other family. Actually, her motorcycle gang, she wanted to be buried with her husband because her husband was deceased. Her motorcycle gang, because I kept looking for an obituary and I'm like, I'm not seeing one. How could they not have something for her? They're not just going to forget her, right? Like, they're not going to forget her. They can't. And I kept searching, and I know that's kind of crazy, but I just didn't feel like she was at peace. Like, something in me just kept saying, she's not at peace, especially with the way that she died. There's no way. And it took them 3 weeks to raise money to send her body back to Ohio to be buried. Her son, about a year after the accident, tried to reach out to my husband and I. And this actually kind of makes me feel like a shitty person. And it is kind of shitty. I didn't respond to him. And at the time, the reason why I didn't respond to him is because I was told that if you say anything, it could be misconstrued and the accident would be your fault, blah, 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 blah. And that was just like the legal matter of it. But I really wanted to say something to him. I just didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to say, hey, I'm sorry about your mom. I didn't, either did my husband, didn't know how to address that type of situation at that point in time. I found out a couple years later that he was actually in a bad car accident and died. So that whole family is basically gone. And I never responded to him. And I have always felt really bad. And I have not been back to the accident site. My husband has not been back to the accident site. My really good friend that I was talking about that is Methodist, she had actually been up that way. And she took some photos and she sent them to me. I asked her to, because I wanted to know if, with everything being up on that mountain and all the markers for all the motorcyclists and stuff that had died, people had left markings for them. And I wanted to know that somebody remembered her. And they did. They actually did leave a really nice memorial for her, and it's still there. I still sometimes dream about that accident.
You will too. I once saw one, and it wasn't nearly the experience you had, but a pregnant lady died in it. And I dreamed about that for years and years afterwards.
Yeah, I'm actually checking the chat now. My husband, I should have said this before, about a week and a half before that accident happened, one of his coworkers, as a hobby, was working on bikes, crotch rockets, Harleys. It was just like the spare time thing. And my husband was actually like, hey, can I buy a crotch rocket from him? And I said, no, no. And he was like, but it like won't use any gas. It'll be quick back and forth. And I said, it's not you that I have a problem with. I said, people drive crazy.
Oh my God, I had that exact conversation. Like when scooters were popular, my boyfriend, like he got a little scooter and then he was going through this phase where he wanted a motorcycle. And I said the exact same thing to him too. We live in a college town, you know, and I was like, I know you're a great driver, but these little douchebags driving daddy's sports cars, drunk or not.
Yes, that's how I felt. And so he kept asking. And so then he got his friend to ask. And I said, no. A week later, that accident happened and he never asked again.
Well, no, I would think not.
I still dream about her. I have a lot of things that are connected through dreams. And that's why I'm actually glad we're doing that talk tomorrow night, because that's definitely something I feel like I've been able to kind of figure some things out through my dreams. I've been able to talk to people in my dreams. And one of the dreams that I had with her, it was about 3 years after the accident. I remember her saying, "You did not kill me." And that was all she said. That was it. And I woke up. Yeah, like I woke up and my face was wet. And I did not know that you could actually cry when you're asleep. I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
That was something that I learned. And so it kind of started. I didn't realize that I had had other dreams where I had actually been crying.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that that was a thing. So when that happened.
Until I lived with my boyfriend like the first year. And you know how I said I used to have vivid nightmares. And we were back in my hometown and he woke me up in the middle of the night and he was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I was like, "I don't know why." Like, nothing. I was sleeping. What? And he said I was sobbing in my sleep and I had, you know, tears all over my face too. So, yeah, it's crazy the things your body can do while you're sleeping. I've woken up with welts on my skin before too, like where I dreamed that somebody hit me and I woke up with a welt. Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Right? It is. Evidently, my husband says that sometimes I'll punch him. I'll punch him, or like I have a
wandering knee.
Yeah, sometimes I do too. And he's like, "You're beating the crap out of me in your sleep." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know that I'm doing that."
I once punched a wall in my sleep. I dreamed I was fighting with this girl, and I swung in my sleep, and my fist connected with the wall. It really hurt.
Yeah, that's my husband. He used to like to sleep with the bed, like his side be against the wall. I hated it. It kind of made me feel like,
yes,
our room was not centered, so to say. And I'm like, I can't stand this. I can't stand this. And he ended up doing something. He moved. He was dreaming about something and he moved and he actually kneed a hole into the wall.
Oh my gosh.
And that's when he was like, okay, it can go back to the center of the room now. It's fine.
My boyfriend said he dreamed one time that we were being mugged and like the guy was trying to take me. And when I woke up, he had his arm around my neck and was like pulling on me like I was choking, you know, but he was dreaming like he was trying to save me in his dream.
Yeah.
I was like, thanks, you almost killed me while you were saving me, but thanks for that.
No, my brother-in-law, he has like night terrors. Like, we went
Oh,
on
yeah.
vacation, to the beach and, like, shared one of those big old beach houses. And let me tell you, that is some scary stuff.
I had a
You
friend whose
can't
little
wake
boy used to
them,
have them when he
right?
was like little.
No, you can't wake them up because it'll, like, make it worse. And when they wake up, they're still,
In the dream.
in that thought that they
Right.
still, like, freak out on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's almost punched his own kid before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like the dream continues after they wake up. It's really crazy.
I have sleptwalk before. I thought it had to do with some of my medications.
It
And
can.
I would do things like, one time I went to the bathroom and I thought I got up to leave the bathroom. No, I didn't. I literally fell asleep and fell into the sink and got a black eye.
Oh,
Yeah.
I busted
done
my
that.
bottom teeth doing
Oh my
something very
God.
similar. Yeah.
I talk in my sleep.
See, I don't, but my husband says that. Okay, so this is kind of funny. Say if somebody passes gas or something, if it's okay, it's a normal reaction, people. Everybody farts. I don't give a fuck what you say.
Right.
You can fart glitter if you want, whatever. But he says that, like, if he farts or a dog farts, or if I fart, yes, I'm a female, I fart, get over it.
Everybody farts, just like everybody poops.
He said that after, like, when it happens, I will giggle. I will giggle while I'm asleep. And it's the funniest. He's like, that is the funniest shit I've ever seen. And I'm like, do I really do that? And he said, yes. Yes, you do. So
That's hilarious.
evidently
Yeah.
I giggle when dogs and people fart when they sleep.
You can ask me anything in my sleep and I'll tell you. You may not like the answer, but I'll tell you.
My ex-roommate used to talk in her sleep, and she'd always say crazy shit, and her husband did too. And I'll never forget, like, one night he fell asleep on my couch. We were watching a movie or something. And when she went to wake him up to go home, he went, "What's she talking about playing with them pigs for?" He started laughing, and he jumped up and he was like, "Why are you laughing at me?" So we told him, and he was like, "I did not. He was denying it." And so we were like humoring him. We're like, okay, you didn't, whatever. And we waited till everything calmed down, and I elbowed her in the ribs and, like, kind of stage whispered, "Hey, are you going to tell him we were actually talking about playing with pigs?" And he comes storming into the room. He's like, I knew it. You fuckers really were talking about playing with pigs.
Oh my God.
The funniest fucking things I ever saw. I almost died.
See, now I'll just, like, wake up, and if I fall asleep on the couch, I'll just wake up and look at my husband and be like, I'll just say some weird stuff and then just lay back down and go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
weird
friend
stuff.
used to do that. That was her thing. Or she'd set up in the middle of the night and say something and then just flop back over.
Yes, my husband, before we moved out on our own, when we were staying with my parents before we got married, so we had our bed, and then his, like, both of our computers were in my room, what was my room. And one night he was up gaming. Like, if he games in the same room as me, or like TV or whatever, none of that has ever bothered me. That's never been like a thing that, like, I have to sleep with the fan on too. That I've just became used to.
I'm like you. I like having noise when I fall asleep because it makes me feel like I've always been afraid of the dark. So if there's noise and lights and stuff going on, I sleep better because it, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't feel scared.
My husband is the opposite. He will sleep with the fan on, but TV and stuff, no, it's got to be off. But for me, it's okay. I'm like you. It makes me comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, one
I gotta
night,
have a fan on.
My mom
yes,
is the opposite too. He's got to have dead quiet, dead darkness. Like,
yes.
it really sucks because I'm the exact opposite.
No,
Like
I don't like full darkness. I gotta have, like, night lights in my house.
Me
The
too, Copper.
curtain-
I don't like the dark. I'm
Yes.
scared of the dark.
The curtains in our room that we have are actually darkening curtains. Those are what he wanted. And so he'll be like, if even just a little bit of light shows, because for a while he was on night shift. Now he's on days, but 12-hour days. But
Yeah.
I
at
know how those are like.
nighttime, if he would see even like when he got off work, an inch of light, it would drive him crazy and he would not fall asleep.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They actually put him on sleep medication though. I've got some funny stories about that.
Yeah, that stuff will make you do some crazy stuff.
Yes. So
Ambien, that's for sure.
that's what he takes.
Like,
I've heard some good stories involving Ambien also.
Mm-hmm. So one night he was gaming. I had went to bed, and I had this calico cat that I absolutely loved, and she used to sleep with me. And at this time, she was actually pregnant with kittens, and she wasn't sleeping with me. She was kind of doing her nesting thing.
Uh-huh.
So I sat directly up in bed, and my eyes were open, but I was still asleep. He said I was still asleep, and I was touching the nightstand beside me, and I was looking for a bag. And he was like, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "I have to find the bag of kittens. Where are the kittens?" And he said, "I laid back down and just went to sleep."
Yeah, I've done stuff like that.
I was just looking for a bag of kittens. And he thought that was so funny. Like, that's one of the things that he remembers.
My roommate and I, we used to smoke a lot of pot, and
Yeah.
we shared the same bed because we were poor. So we shared this big old water bed. And she elbowed me in the middle of the night, and she went, "Clover."
Oh my gosh.
What? And she went, "Yeah, Clover." And I still, I mean, that was like 25 years ago, and I still like to tease her about that.
That's so funny. Oh my God. I have left freezer doors open. I have put my keys in the freezer. I've
done that.
Let's see.
I've done that awake.
Yeah, I've done that awake. I haven't done that asleep.
I actually haven't done that awake. What I will do awake, which now it's better because we're not in our old house anymore, but I would constantly be like, okay, I'm leaving. I'm, going to work or whatever. And I would leave knowing good and damn well I did not have my keys in my hand. So I would constantly lock myself out of my own old house completely all the time. So one morning, the dog started barking, and my husband, it woke him up, and he catches me mid climbing in through a window, like half my body's in, half my body's out. And he's like, "Did you lock your keys inside again? And I'm asleep. You could have just woke me up." And I said, no, I'll never hear the end of that one. I would rather just be in the window. Yeah. So I've done stuff like that. Or like, I don't know if you guys have ever sleep eaten.
I know someone who does that. She once tried to eat a bowl of ice cream in her sleep and like woke up with it all melted in her bed.
Yes. Okay. So
mine's always Cheez-Its.
There was one time this was like, I would say like 2014. Still dealing with the aftermath of that accident, just my head not being in the right place. They had put me on medication. And so I took it, and I'm like, I'll be fine. I can just eat my food. And we had gotten takeout. Well, I was sitting on my couch watching TV, and I had taken 2 bites of the sandwich. And my husband comes out, wakes me up, and I start chewing my food. And he's like, "You fell asleep with a sandwich in your hand and in your mouth.
That's
Yes.
actually not too bad. Like I've heard worse sleep eating stories. Actually, that one's not.
Or like there has been times I'm very weird about the carpets in my house. Like I like for them to be really, really clean. It's just a like OCD thing I have. Even with having pets, I'm like, no, the carpets have to be clean.
I'm the same way. I used to vacuum my carpets twice a day when I had carpets. Twice a day I vacuumed. So
I have kids. What are clean carpets?
Yeah, like even with the dogs and they bring stuff in, I'm like, oh my God, no. But you know, I have done things like have a drink of something. Like I like ice. I eat a lot of crushed ice. It's
Do you
just
have an
something
iron
I do.
deficiency?
Yes, I do. I do.
I was going to say that's common in people with iron deficiencies.
There has been times where I am sitting up. I have my cup of ice. My husband has came out. And guess what? The cup of ice is in the floor and I'm still holding on to the cup and I'm asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. I once, and of course, this was back in the days when I was partying and stuff, but I once came home drunk and got a thing of lemonade. And I woke up and the bed was soaked. And I was like, what the hell? Did I pee myself? What did I do? And I was pulling the sheets off the bed and the cup like fell out of my sheets. And I was like, oh, like I didn't even remember.
You were looking at a yellow stain going, what did I do?
I was so sure I peed myself and I was like, how'd it get in my hair? Like, but even better than sleep, like I know somebody whose husband once sleep pooped, and
Oh my God.
he literally, and I was staying at the time, so I heard the whole aftermath. I was there for it, but he got up in the middle of the night, opened up a dresser drawer, pooped in it, shut it, and went.
Oh my God.
I kid you not. And not even on any drugs or anything. I have no idea.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yep.
Wow.
Not even, I was like, at least I would have lied and said I was on some drugs. Like,
Right? Oh my God. That's so funny. I have like, what else have I done? I fell into the bathtub one time asleep. That was interesting. And that one didn't wake me up actually.
Was it empty?
Yes, it was. But my husband found me sleeping in the bathtub.
I was in a bathroom one time because it was a New Year's party.
It was comfortable.
Yeah,
I was the only one not paired up. So I got to sleep in the bathroom.
Right? So, like, my husband's like, you've kind of done some weird stuff, but he's done some weird stuff too. Or what else? What was the one thing I was going to say? Oh, I have fallen asleep on group calls, like Messenger, and I'll start snoring. And
it makes me think of Nikki falling asleep in her life.
Yeah. They'll be like, Jess, like Amy will be like, Jess is asleep. She fell asleep. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm here. I'm here. And I'm like, I'm going to bed. And they're laughing and they're like, okay, go to bed. Go to bed. So I think the sleep stories are funny. We will have to have an ambient discussion though, because there has been some crazy stuff that I have seen people do.
We should have one where we just do like crazy party stories too, because I have some funny ones.
Yes.
Most of the things I've seen rather than done. But my friend that I used to live with, man, she would do the stupidest things when she got drunk. Oh my God, it was so funny. Like I told you the sleep pooping story. Well, she drunk peed in our crisper drawer in our refrigerator in front of a house full of people. Oh my God, it was so funny. And then she fell over with her pants down around her ankles, and when her husband picked her up, she was like, "I like it here. It's nice and cool."
Oh my God.
Oh Lord. That's funny.
Yeah, I love that story. It's like my favorite drunk story of all time.
So I have a kind of happy ghost story actually. since the other ones have kind of been like, oh my God, that's really sad.
Creepy.
Yes, creepy, sad kind of thing. This one actually isn't creepy. It was just kind of interesting in timing. So the old house that we used to live in, when we moved into it, my husband had been laid off at a previous job, and the company was just downsizing, and he was in with a temp agency at this time, but they were having a hard time finding, like jobs and stuff like that. So when we moved into this old house, my husband, about a week into it, he got a call from the temp agency. And usually this company did not do anything with temp agencies. You had to go directly to them. You could not get hired by a temp agency to work for them. And so he ended up getting a spot at this company. And it was really weird because before we actually bought the house, we were renting it at first. When I spoke to the old landlord, she said, well, the person that was old that actually died in the house, he was a security guard for that company. And I did not know that. And so my husband got hired at this same company. He was a temp for about 6 months, and then he became permanent. And I always thought that that was kind of neat, because I had no idea that the person that had died in the house, of course, when we moved in, we didn't know he had died in the house, but
Right.
he worked there. So it was kind of like, and this was the job my husband wanted.
Huh. Like
Since
it's
then,
a weird connection almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It definitely was. So that was kind of a happy thing. When we lived in that house, weird things would happen. Not bad. Like we were talking earlier, dogs. You guys were talking about dogs and cats, like noticing things or staring off into space.
Oh yeah. Babies
That
too.
happened. Yeah, that happened a lot there. So I have an HE washer and dryer, that kind of set. And the lid on mine, when we had it at the old house, it would, when you closed it, it would lock. Like it had like a magnetic lock or whatever.
Yeah.
There would be times that you were standing in the kitchen and that lock would just click. Like lock on, lock off, lock on, lock off. It would do it twice. Nothing in the washing machine.
I
Nobody
had a
touching
friend
it.
whose washer used to do the same thing, and it would beep for no reason too. And she used to say her washer was haunted all the time. That's crazy.
That's what I thought when that was happening. I'm like, what in the? And we were actually getting worried about it because like we thought maybe there was an electrical issue or something, and there wasn't. It was just doing it. Well, another time, I walked into the kitchen and all the top cabinets were open, every single
wow.
one. And it was just me in the house with the animals. And I thought that maybe my cats had gotten together and were like, hey, let's fuck with her. Because that's what cats do. Let's fuck with her, kind of thing. Nope. They were all asleep. So I was like,
Cats are experienced gaslighters.
yes, they are. So things like that would happen. Or like, okay, there would be rooms that I would go into and I would get like goosebumps and weird feelings, and the temperature would change. And I kind of had a joke, and I would say this, like if I went into our bathroom and I felt that, I would be like, can you give me some privacy? We can hang out later. And
I've
my
done that before.
husband, yeah, my husband was like, who are you talking to? I'm like, I swear there was a ghost. Yes, that's what I said. And he said, well, it's not a bad ghost. And I said, you knew there was a ghost here? And he said, it's pretty obvious, Jess.
Be like,
I'm like,
yeah, it's
wow.
here, but I still don't want it watching me pee.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And when I said that, he
Bad enough the
said,
cats are already in here staring.
Yeah, you can't pee without a cat keeping you company. It's like
Oh,
they
yeah,
got
you can.
yes,
from the
or
potty
a
monster
dog.
or something.
Yeah, or a dog.
Yeah.
They have to know what you're doing at all times.
Oh, my girl gets so nervous if I go into another room without her. She'll make these noises. Like, we used to call her Grr all the time because she would make these like trilling. It wasn't a meow. It was like this, like between a trill and a hum, and she'd be like, uh.
kind of like
She'd follow
like
me
that.
around the house making that noise. That's like, I found out later that's her anxious noise. Like, she was like, "Are you leaving, Mom? You're not leaving, are you? Are you leaving? You're not leaving. Oh, okay, just the other room. Wait, you're leaving this room? You're not leaving, are you?" And she did that every time. And anyway, yeah. So my boy doesn't
Oh
care
my
so much.
gosh.
He's like, "You're going? Cool. Don't wake me up. I'm napping."
But when I said that to my husband, he's like, "It's a ghost. I can already see what you're doing." And I was like, "Well, I would still like for it to be polite."
Right?
Yeah.
Just
At
be
least to
I
look
actually-
your eyes. It's almost 3, folks. I think we've had a
It
good
is.
one. I think people are starting to. I think we're losing our audience a little bit. I'm getting a little tired.
Sorry about that.
No,
You're
it's okay. I
fine.
love it when we get to talking and lose track of time and everything. I think it's awesome when that happens. I'm just getting a little
Oh,
tired.
well, darling Nikki also just went live not too long ago. So that's
Nikki
probably where
went
some.
live?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
Nikki
she
is.
did. She did. I
Oh, that's
saw
fair
it
people
pop
do
up.
that. I wish somebody had said something. I would have stopped so we could go watch her.
Oh,
Okay. Well,
yeah, I think she's
you
live
still
right
live?
now. Let me see.
Because I
Yeah,
didn't
I think
know
she
you were-
is. I hold on. Let me double check. Because sometimes my connection can be weird.
She went live 12 minutes ago, so hopefully she still is.
I think that's about the time I started losing people too, because I noticed people like dropped out like all at once.
Yes,
Yeah.
Nikki is
I'll
live.
save my other story for later. It involves the kitchen. Like you talking about the kitchen cabinets opening reminded me of my story.
Okay.
And it's hilarious.
Well, we're going to be here tomorrow at 11 p.m. Eastern
Yes,
Standard
come
Time.
up,
talking
Copper,
dreams.
please.
And you can come back up tomorrow, Copper, and tell the kitchen one. How's that?
I'll try.
Does that sound
It'll
good?
probably be a little after y'all start.
Okay. Well, whenever you get to come up,
Tomorrow.
it's fine with
I
me.
get off at 11, so I get
Okay.
off like about when y'all are starting or have been started. So as long as you're still on.
I would
Yeah.
like to hear Amber's story too, because I think she's got some good ones. So I hope you both will come with
Yeah, I
me.
missed her. Like said she was coming up, but
Yeah, she
I
never
bet
made
she
it.
fell
She
asleep
probably
again.
fell asleep.
Oh, she's exhausted
I
right
used to do
now.
the same thing. My kid would be like, "Lay down with me for a minute." And I'm like, "All right, just for a minute." Next thing I
That's
know,
the easiest way to
3
fall
o'clock in the
asleep.
morning.
Yep, I hear you. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and shut down then and check out what Nikki's doing in her chat.
Yes,
I've
let's
been
go say
trying to get a hold
hi.
of her anyway. So, but I love everybody, and thank you, girls, for coming up and sharing your stories with us. If anybody has a story for me, I've got my email here in the description box, so you can send it to me or just come up sometime when we're talking. Either way, you don't have to come on my channel if you want to share it. You can email it to me, and we'll talk about it that way also. But at any rate, thanks everybody for showing up, and I'll probably go to Nikki's chat and hang out if anybody wants to see me there.
Same. Thank
Yeah.
you, Amanda. Thank you, Cynthia and Copper. And thank you, everyone else. If I
Yes,
haven't seen
Amanda,
you.
Cynthia, and all the people who were here before that dipped out. Thank you, everybody.
And Copper, I'm so glad that I got to hear you and for a second time. And I have actually enjoyed talking to you tonight, and I liked your stories. So I hope you'll come up again with me because you made me feel really, really comfortable to share some things. And I want to say thank you again, Breakfast, because I have
Yes.
been on how many of your lives now. So thank you so much.
Anytime. I love having panelists. I love paneling up
I
with
do
people.
too. Paneling is fun. It is fun.
Yeah, it's much
fun.
better than talking by yourself. So, So thank you all, and I'm going to go ahead and end this here, and we'll see y'all tomorrow night, hopefully at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Detention is out. Good night.
Detention is out. Sincerely yours, the Breakfast Club. Night, everybody.
Night.